With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Tonight, the top competitors for the Premier Racing Association PRL are all set to go for Formula 4 and Formula 3 action here on RaceSpot in VCO. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's coverage here from beautiful Montreal to start off the evening. My name's Justin Pritz. Alongside the booth for tonight's action is Andy McEwen, with our producer this evening, Arjuna Kakipati. The drivers are getting themselves situated for two very difficult races, starting with the IR4s on the docket, Andy. Two very tight circuits for both sides of the card. We start with Circuit Joe Villeneuve tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my all-time favourite street circuits. In fact, we're going to visit two of my all-time favourite street circuits over the course of the evening with, as you say, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Canada, taking us into the second half of the IRO4 season. Then we head to the Silverstone circuit in a week's time and Alton Park the week after that. A nice little British double-header, which I'm certainly looking forward to before it all climaxes at Road America, and the tight, technical and twisty Hungaro ring in the beginning of March will crown our champions.
Of course, going to be a very busy time to say the very least for these drivers. The second half of the season starting tonight. Let's take a look at the championship standings coming into this evening for the driver's side. Takeshi Kita has been the points leader much of the season in turn, in part because he's been the series leader in victories, and one of just two drivers, with Andrew Moran, to finish in the top 4 of the previous 5 events. However, it was Andrew Moran, remember last time, who ended up having that major incident that seen him get shuffled back and have to take a DNF last time. You have Kevin Santana, Jake Vasconcelos, Michael Dowden, Zachary Zert amongst those within range to take advantage if there's another slip-up from any of them.
Yeah, absolutely, and that issue for Moran a week ago really changed the complexion of the whole championship, because it means that 8 of those 10 drivers at the front of the championship table have had a non-score. Now remember, each driver is entitled to drop their lowest score, but they've already used that up, the majority of them anyway, and we are only halfway through the season, so all of our title contenders really balancing on a bit of a knife edge. They cannot afford another non-finish.
Keep in mind, there are team standings to consider here too. YS Motorsports Black has been dominant throughout the campaign. 42 points the difference between them and Screwball Racing. Is Atomic has also looked very well. That's in part because, well, championship leader is a part of that organization. Dreaded racing carts that go yay amongst the top 5. Keep in mind, there is driver teams a part of Goofy Goober Racing, for example, yet to score points within the championship, while Manelli Motorsport has a 20-point penalty. Entering tonight's round just outside that top 10, quietly, Wetterback is amongst those at the tail end of these standings. So a lot to consider for these drivers here tonight in turn. Look at the standings, but we'd like to remind you how in turn tonight is brought to you part by VCO, the virtual competition organization. Tonight is also brought to you by Advanced Sim Racing, owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products. Use the Precision5 coupon code. Racebox Sim Racing offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Priced and carefully handcrafted are button boxes, enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount. Precision5 coupon code. RaceLab helps you improve your driving skills. 100 overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration. Best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. Backcooker products include incredible immersion and bring realism to every game. Every nuance until you put yourself in the driver's seat. Mecha Sim Hardware is a small company for the Czech Republic. Their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you're looking for high-end pedal sets, handbrakes, or sequential shifters, visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting more than 60,000 users across the globe, Share provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. Share is free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit Trader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Let's get the chance now in turn. These drivers make themselves prepared for tonight's action to acquaint ourselves with the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve tonight and track how qualifying is going so far. When it comes to this racetrack, there are many things to consider, especially this being one of the two tight sections on the schedule for tonight's card, Andy. First things first, track position could be very valuable, but second, there are a couple good passing chances once the race gets started.
Yeah, we've seen some fantastic racing from this venue in the past, and that really is because, as you said, there are 2 or 3 clear places you can try and make a pass. The run into turn 1 is certainly a place, if you're feeling brave, you can throw it up the inside, and you see a lot of wheel-to-wheel action through that first sequence. Then, of course, you've got the hairpin at turn 10. It's so tempting to throw it up the inside into turn 10, but really it's the exit speed from that tight hairpin bend that is more important, because that brings you onto the huge drag down the casino straight and into the final chicane. It's a really great layout. It's produced some fantastic racing over the years, and I'm sure we'll do so again tonight.
Should indeed, especially when it comes to the difficulties here. But it's Christopher Richards, keep in mind, who leads the way in qualifying. 137.2, 3/10 quicker than Michael Dowden. Stelly Michael Blaze and James O'Brien electing to qualify again, right to the top 5. Keep in mind, some of your top drivers in the championship still looking to gain spots. Kita in 8th position, for example, as well Andrew Moran, just on his 7th lap, is back in 24th. So the championship competitors are looking for a lot more to be desired here.
For sure, and as you said, of all the tracks that we're racing at, really, this is the one where they do not want to be stuck in what I like to call the danger zone. Anything from about the 3rd row back, you're sort of asking for trouble there. That is where you're likely to see the contact on the opening lap, and even if you survive without any contact, it's likely that you'll lose touch with the lead group, so important to try and qualify as well as you can. Andrew Moran has now jumped into 3rd look, so he's onto the 2nd row of the grid. That's a little bit more like him, but it does seem, doesn't it, that some of our expected front runners just taking a few extra laps to get into the groove and start setting those really quick lap times.
Take a look at James O'Brien once again. It's important to note when it comes to private label team hype, they have officially this week entered the F3 Fields team schedule and roster when it comes to Trent Dinkle. James O'Brien, keep in mind, has been looking to have fun and build his road course racing experience in these IRL 4s. We've seen him qualify for the first time a few weeks ago in his IRL 4 career, doing well so far. So we'll take a look. Someone who's got a lot of consistency lately, Michael Blaze.
Yeah, Michael Blaze looking to continue that run here tonight. He's 5th fastest at the moment, although that wasn't quite an improvement that time around. He looks to be towing around a little group of drivers, but Michael, as you said, certainly in the ascendancy. That is a big slide, though, for Michael. In fact, he was the 2nd car in that group, and he's going to have to bail on that lap now, surely. Otherwise, he risks getting in other people's way. Very easy to spin the rear tyres out of some of these tight corners. Pretty low traction on this circuit, and that's already starting to catch a few people out.
Looking at Andrew Moran, now he's up to 3rd spot, looking to gain 4/10 to get up to the pole. It already reset the previous time around, so when it comes to Moran, what do you think the pressure is going to be like for him, knowing he was in the driver's seat for the title, or in a good spot for it, and then have a disaster with right along with the lap, in fact?
Yeah, turning his way through turns 3 and 4 here. Real rhythm section of the track, this, up into this flat-out right-hander at turn 5, keeping it to the right-hand side, and then nailing the brakes into 6 and 7. And you're right, Andrew Moran certainly will be feeling the pressure. He went into the previous round at Road Atlanta, I think we made the point at the time, as really the only of the championship contenders who perhaps wasn't feeling the pressure of the drop scores. He hadn't had a bad race yet. No sooner had we said that than he went and had a non-finish, so the pressure is really on. He has been the qualifying king of late. They're looking for his 3rd consecutive pole position, but tagging the wall there on the exit of turn 9 is not the way to do it.
Yes, indeed. Before even getting to the hairpin contact with the wall on the right side tires, being likely a 2nd straight invalidated lap time from Moran. He's only completed 3 valid lap times in his qualifying session so far. Under 5 minutes to work with on the clock. Only 1 driver yet to set a time, John Buckley. The difference right now, 7 seconds. Between the top and the bottom, the outlier is Joseph Homan for reference.
Kevin Santana jumping onto the front row. We'd just seen Takeshi Kita jump ahead of Moran, and also the number 8 car too of Dowden, so it's all change at the front. Moran will come through this time, and as we've said, we think this will be an invalid lap. Let's see if it does register. It's a 37.5, so it was a personal best. But I don't actually think that will make much difference. He will stay where he was in 5th position. But yeah, all tightening up at the front. And now some of the heavy hitters starting to appear at the top of the times. Remember, Takeshi Kita arriving here just 5 points clear of Moran. And at the moment, they'd be lining up right next to each other.
A little bit of help from Michael Blaze, in fact, to try and see if he can bump up that time. Richards, a part of Screwball Racing. So far, Richards' luck has been up and then down. Up and then down. Good finish, DNF. Or essentially, 2 of the first 5 races DNFs, a part of that pattern.
Yeah, it's strange season for him, hasn't he, really? Had that second place finish at Mount Panorama, Bathurst, the second round, and then, as you said, sort of went off the boil a bit, but did bounce back with the top 5 a week ago in what was a real race of attrition around Road Atlanta, but looks as though he's got the outright pace to contend for a race victory potentially here tonight, but he is towing around another very, very quick driver here, so let's see whether or not he can hang on to the fastest lap time.
See if Blaze indeed picks up some speed the next time around. A 1:37.6, 4/10 top his personal best. That time by the stripe. Keep in mind the track conditions are fairly cool for this qualifying session. Just 71 degrees Fahrenheit track temp, 68 the air temp. And it's been somewhat cloudy throughout the session, partly cloudy skies. But cloud cover did cover the track for much of the way as there goes Blaze.
It's a very, very common mistake to make here at Montreal. Coming out of turn 4, you're going quite steeply downhill there, and the car naturally loses grip as you change direction from the right to the left, and he smacked the wall with the right rear corner. That will at the very least invalidate the lap and potentially give him some damage as well. What can Takeshi Kita do, though? He is going to come through, and it's not quite a personal best either, but the times, Justin, are so tight that drivers really are chasing hundredths of a second now to try and gain positions on the grid.
Especially since it's been so difficult to get to the carrot on the stick of Christopher Richards throughout this qualifying session. Keep in mind when it comes to Richards' time, that was the personal best so far. He ran in clean air the entire lap. So far, a lot of the air drivers, even with the attempts to use some of the drivers as pole, starting to feel that aero push, it seems, in the corners more so.
I'm not convinced that I would want to be following another car around here, especially in a high downforce single-seater such as these IRO4s, and I do think that you'll probably end up losing more time through the corners than you're gaining in the tow down the straight. We did just have a big improvement, though, from Austin Harris. He has jumped onto the front row out of absolutely nowhere, so Austin Harris, another new contender at the front, who we really haven't been speaking about so far.
Where did that come from? Indeed, Austin Harris's best qualifying performance. Richards did not improve, by the way, as he spins out. And that leaves just a couple laps to go for drivers at the very most, down to the final minute or so in this session. Michael Dowden doing really well for YS Motorsports Black throughout the season. See if he's able to bump up 3/10. He bumps up 1/10. It gets him to second.
Much more like it from Michael Dowden, and again, look how tight it is, 0.166 off pole, but then the next tenth of, well, in fact, the next 300ths of a second take you from second down to fourth, so incredibly tight margins, and that bodes well for a very close race when we get going. Takeshi Kita comes through and stays in 5th position as well, but a really impressive effort that from Dowden, who needs a good result tonight, you feel, to really inject himself into this championship battle.
Once those looking to inject themselves further up on the board, James O'Brien was top 5 to start off the session. Now looking to end it strong. This likely to be his last lap. If not, he'll try have 15 seconds to work with. He'll have to take it around, so he may be one of the final drivers to take a time as a result of the invalidated lap. The driver did crash next to him. Let's take a look as Austin Harris, well, he's happy on his time. That's not how he entered the pit lane, though.
No, that's not textbook pit entry, is it? I think he realised he'd outbraked himself from the chicane, and that was going to invalidate the lap, and so decided to pull into the pit lane. Of course, he would have got a slowdown penalty as well, which would have ruined the start of his, what would have been final lap of the session. Big improvement there, though, for Kevin Santana onto the front row of the grid, and very close, half a tenth or so away from Christopher Richards' time. That was a really good late improvement, and given how important track position is here, Justin, that could be important.
Great improvement for Santana to close out his qualifying. For Dowden, he only gains 3/1000ths of a second. That is not good enough to gain a spot. So only a couple drivers have a chance to close out their runs. One of them down the front straightaway, Takeshi Kita, working off the back of Justin Johnson. This time a 1:37.4. That's good enough to hold on to 4th. Get in front of Austin Harris. So that leaves just 2 drivers who can complete the runs, O'Brien and Corey Precker.
Yeah, out of the final corner then. Are we going to see another improvement here then from the number 35 car? Corey Precker down in 18th at the moment, so you could do with an improvement. And that was a 291, 38.291, so slightly off his previous best. and he doesn't look very happy with that. We've seen more pace than that from Corey so far this season. He'll be a bit disappointed, I think, with 18th.
And O'Brien has elected to bail out of his qualifying run, so that just about concludes qualifying. Only Michael Dowden's on circuit practicing preparation for tonight. So Andy, the field's set, 26 entrants here tonight. Your thoughts heading in towards the starting grid tonight?
Well, as I kind of anticipated, this being a street circuit, it can sometimes throw up some unexpected results. Some drivers tend to excel at this kind of racetrack, and I think that's what we're seeing with Christopher Richards becoming the 4th different pole sitter from the first 6, or in fact the 5th different pole sitter, from the first 6 qualifying sessions. Really out of nowhere, we saw a few drivers appear at the front out of nowhere, and it will be interesting to see how they get on in the race. They're perhaps not that used to racing right at the front of the field, but also they have no championship points to worry about. They'll be gunning only for the race win.
Should be an intriguing night here to start off the second half of the season for the IRL4s here from Montreal. Beautiful racetrack, a beautiful circuit with history. We'll see which PRL drivers add their names to the history books here tonight. With that, the drivers have finished up the qualifying portion of the session. They'll have the next 2 minutes to get themselves situated for tonight's starting grid here from Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. The best time of them all with the Screwball Racing's Christopher Richards, his first of the season. His teammate Kevin Santana starts in second. Michael Dowden and Takeshi Kita round out the second row. Austin Harris and Andrew Moran the top 6. Half that field amongst YS Motorsports, another Screwball Racing car, David Cristelli, starts in 7th. Michael Blaze, James O'Brien, Jake Vasconcelos trying to gain a lot of ground up for Pointy End Racing in 10th. Lucio Vargas and Zachary Zert, the top 12. Kevin McPherson starts 13th, Marcellus Bruning back in 14th in the Pink Machine, with McLaughlin and Johnson alongside 15th and 16th. Whereas Saba, after some spins in qualifying, still 17th, will start alongside Corey Precker. Joseph Holman improved vastly from the start of his session to be able to get 19th, with Tyler Gore in 20th. Alexander, Mulholland, Hebert, and Winter, the top 24. One other driver took a time tonight, that was Drew DeWeese, and John Buckley did not set a time qualifying. Appears he may have left the paddock as well. Let's look at your entry list and entries in turn for tonight. Your quick keys to victory if you want to be the driver who wins in Montreal tonight.
Track position, I think that is key. Getting through that first sequence of corners cleanly, and certainly for Christopher Richards, he will be looking at getting off the line well and not really looking back. I think if you do get engaged in a close battle though, you'll start losing a lot of momentum through some of the technical sections. So I think we're going to be in for some good racing, but certainly the advantage is lying with those at the front of the grid.
Last of the drivers to make their way to the grid, David Cristelli has also left the paddock right before the start of tonight's race. It's time to go racing for Montreal. 24 cars ready to go racing. This is the PRL's IRL4 series, powered by VCO. We're underway from Montreal. A terrible launch for Richards. Santana already to the lead. Down and working to the outside line in through 1 and 2. Launch Senna. Santana leads all the way back into a battle for third. Now it's Richards from a horrible launch.
Yeah, all cleanly through the first couple of corners though, I think, and Richards still on the defensive. Takeshi Kita up the inside now into turn 3, rattles over the curbs, and Richards will just about hang on and finally settle into line in 3rd place. But look at the way that Santana and Dowden have already started to escape up the road. Will they work together in the early stages to build a gap, or will we see Dowden tack for the lead?
Dowden usually has the tendency to go on the aggressive. Most of the drivers single file amidst the backpack already. Clean launch for the entire field. Michael Dowden looking to try and get the pull down. Close up quite yet in the opening 21 lap race here tonight. Here comes Dowden though with the run, heading off this time to the hairpin. Will Dowden show the move? There's a chance to the right side, yes. A spin in the background for Bruning. No change for the lead. So Bruning's off circuit. Santana leads them now down to the Casino Straight.
Yeah, Marcellus Bruning looping it coming out of the left-hander at turn 9. Not sure whether he jumped or he was pushed, but either way, he's at the back of the pack. The leaders, though, heading onto that back straight where the slipstream really starts to take effect. And as close as Dowden is to Santana, I'd be surprised if we don't see a move. Actually, Santana hanging on nicely. They will run single file into the final 2 corners.
Oh, and Santana, a terrible run. He bobbles around. Here comes Dowden, near 3 wide for the race lead. Michael Dowden leads the first lap of 21. Rich already looking for second back. Dives it up the inside. Door slam shut for the lead. Here comes Kita.
Yeah, Kita's going to get hung out to dry, though, and that could allow Harris through on the inside. It does. Austin Harris not showing any bashfulness in racing against some of these championship contenders, and he will pick the pocket of Takeshi Kita and move into 4th position. So Takeshi went for the move, and it did not work. We've had another spin there at the first couple of corners. That was Neil Alexander, I believe, number 27, and he will join the also-rans at the back, with Marcellus Bruning having recovered from his spin.
There are all racing cars having troubles. Topper Gore also recently just had the top. We continue to keep an eye on the leaders. A lot of shuffling early with early mistakes. The top 3 looking to break away. Harris quietly is up to 4th spot again. Or was. He's in the grass behind the top 3.
Oh, what a shame. He'd been driving so well, hadn't he? Nipping past Takeshi Kita, and he's run out wide. Kita was under pressure, I noticed, from Andrew Moran. But look at that, very slowly rejoining. What a shame for Austin Harris. Perhaps that little bit of inexperience was showing in the end, and a tiny mistake has cost him lots of places.
Up-break indeed for Harris, who had been having his best starting position of the season. Here's a look at what happened to Bruning. This is in the heart of the pack.
Ooh, that was a strange one. I didn't see any contact. He was just offline. The car on his left does hit the curb and sort of bounce towards him, but unless it was netcode, I didn't actually see the wheels touch. So possibly he just went offline to avoid that car and found that on cold tyres there wasn't the grip, and it's very easy to spin the rear tyres, of course. Battle for the lead, though, heading towards turn 1.
Richards again a peak. The back weight of Dowden in the midst of the fight. Back to single file. So Dowden, Richards, Santana, Kita, and Blaze now in the top 5. The top 7 have already broken away from the rest of the pack. But this seems to be almost a different player than we may have been expecting coming in. Here's a look at what happened to Harris.
He just carried too much speed in, didn't he? That same sequence through 8 and 9, but that one completely on his own. We ride on board with him and just carried too much speed into the corner. The rear of the car wouldn't stick, and actually he does well not to slide off into the barriers.
It almost looked like exactly what we've seen from him when he had the same situation in his qualifying run. And in turn, it cost him a lot of time. He's back to 15th. Santana is struggling now. Hitting the curbing nearly into the wall. Here comes Kita in the battle for 3rd.
Yeah, Kita getting the much better exit there from turn 9. He's got the outside line into 10, though. This is a tricky way to make this move stick, and he might look to get the switch back on the exit again, though. Takeshi runs very wide, just as he did at turns 1 and 2 a couple of laps ago, and loses all of that momentum. I'm noticing, Justin, a lot of drivers struggling with the curbs. You don't want to go near those raised sausage curbs in these IRO4s, because if you do, the car bounces into the air and loses lots of momentum.
Richards starting to save a little bit, meanwhile up the track you see coming down the casino straight. And again, that's the prime drafting space, as we talked about a little bit. It seems no one wants to be patient here in the early going. Everybody wants to go push, push, push. Here comes Richards to the inside for the lead.
He's got the inside into turn 1. Can Dowden hang tough around the outside? He can. He's got the inside for 2 and will once again fend off the attack. Riding on board with Santana in 3rd. He's rubbing his hands with glee as he closes in on the pair of them. Also noticed a big mistake for Andrew Moran. He shortcutted the final chicane, picked up a slowdown penalty, and he's dropped down to P7.
Well, Santana hit the wall that time coming out through turn 4. Doesn't appear like damage cosmetically yet. Keep an eye on things. Meanwhile, speaking of keeping an eye on things, that's not how you take the corner.
No, that was Moran getting that slowdown penalty, and it is pretty costly at that part of the track too. So he drops down into 7th spot, and in fact now dropping down to 10th. He's had another moment, I think, coming through 6 and 7. Has he damaged the car? What's going on with Andrew Moran? This is big potentially for the championship. 2nd in the points, remember, but losing lots of places.
Bad news for Andrew Moran. That course cut we just seen, he's got an in-sim penalty. The car 99. With the black flag. More troubles for Harris at the other end of the track. Off the circuit. Side by side again for the race lead. Everything kicking off early. Down in right side, left side. Trying to battle along is Richards. The pole picked up by Santana down the casino straight. It's like a plate race just about when it comes to the early stages. Down in looking to peel away the lead. Richards has the preferred mark. They both nearly make contact. Santana bunches back up and checks. As the crutch behind him. There goes Santana. There goes Richards. It's happened again. The boomer bust for Richards.
Oh, Vasconcelos into the barriers as well. That all happened because they tried to go side by side through the last chicane. You just cannot do that. And another car shooting straight on there. That might have been Santana, I think, going into the first corner. And he will head for the pit lane with terminal damage, it seems. That will really shake things up. I'm sure we'll get another look at that, but they tried to go 2x2. As I said, you've got to avoid those raised curbs. They were pretty much all over the curbs. It was Richards, I think, on the outside line. He will hit the curb, bounce over into the car to his right, but then Takeshi Kida just snaps sideways, and there is separate contact further forward. That was a strange one, Justin.
That one going to have a major impact on the championship. Hard contact for Kida. And then it doesn't end here for Vasconcelos. He hands this Warwick to the left side of the wall. He ended up collecting another car or two nearly up to the next corner. That's how bad some of the damage got. At least 6 cars with mandatory repairs from a stack up on the wall of the champions.
Yeah, and there you can see Vasconcelos gets to the first corner and really tried to get out of the way. In fact, does get punted, doesn't he? And that was Richards, I think, coming back through and sending him into a second spin. But I think it was Michael Blaze who got into the back of Takeshi Kida. They'd all stacked up at the chicane, and Blaze came out of there with a little bit more momentum than the cars ahead. He just touched the back of Kita's car, and that's what sent Takeshi into the slide. As for what happened to the cars ahead, I think they both just tried to merge into the same bit of real estate and tangled wheels.
So with all the craziness, Michael Blaze is coming in for damage repair because of a broken front wing. Here's how he picked up that damage.
Yes, you look at the extra momentum that he had off the corner, and of course Kita's slowing down because they were practically at walking pace in front of him, and Michael just couldn't quite get out of the way, so that's where his damage came from. Lots of cars now, though, starting to pour into the pit lane.
Moran serving the black flag, Blaze taking the wing change. Lucio Vargas also having to come in after just 5 laps. So likely going to be the drop week for both the champions, or rather, they both had the DNFs before, so they can't use this race as a drop. It's been a disaster for those in the championship fight.
Yeah, and of those top 5 in the points, guess who hasn't had a non-finish yet? Michael Dowden, who has just taken a 4.3 second lead. This could be a huge night in his championship campaign. There's been a spin there for the number 11 car at the first corner. That was Justin Johnson. Thankfully, a harmless rotation this time. But yeah, in 5 weeks' time, Justin, how much will we look back at tonight's events? If we are crowning Michael Dowden the champion, it could arguably be tonight in which he took that big step towards it.
Who's taking a big step in this race now? Not just James O'Brien, but how about Kevin McPherson with a lot of the attrition so far in this race? McPherson looking for one of his best races, in fact, his best race of the year, his best finish in terms of total points coming into tonight, 20. 14 counted the championship. He had DNF twice to start the season.
It's always nice to see drivers picking things up as the season goes on. Look at the way that Corey Precker, Joseph Homan, they both picked up 13 places. The number 85 car as well of Drew DeWeese, he's picked up 15. Now, of course, some people have pitted, and yes, there have been a few incidents, but still, if you survive those incidents, then you fully deserve to reap the rewards of that, and it's nice to see some of those drivers finding their way to the front through others' misfortune.
Looking to the backside from Corey Precker. And remember, he was very disappointed, we've seen from the camera in his qualifying run, 18th best. What can you say? When attrition happens, you have to take advantage as he's looking at what's happening behind with Holman and Zerk hooking up together. 222 and 84.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a great display of why you should never give up in racing, because it's the most unpredictable sport on the planet, and Corey Precker, through managing to avoid the drama, we sort of said that those starting further back down the grid would be more likely to trip over each other. Well, that was the exact opposite. It was the leaders who sort of imploded whilst they were battling for podium spots, and some of those further back able to pick up the pieces. So Corey may have been feeling a bit down in the dumps after qualifying, but I hope that his mood's improving as the race goes on.
A little bit of a slide there, losing him some ground. Speaking of Holman, keep in mind, he started off the season late, joined the championship a couple rounds in, bringing in turn his respective race team, U-Dogs Motorsports, to this series for the first time in a while. Right now, he's back in 29th, in points 27, should say, and looking for his best run. Remember, he also struggled in qualifying back in 19th. Also, there's been an incident coming through the final corners, through the hairpin. A couple more drivers enjoying the list of those damage, including Mulholland.
Yeah, that is Sean, I think, isn't it? Yeah, the 39 going slowly, so there's obviously been contact there at the hairpin. I think that was towards the back of the top 10. I noticed Drew Dewey's made a position up into 9th, and I think that was roughly where the incident was. The first of the cars, by the way, to have made a pit stop, that is Michael Blaze, running in 12th place. Here, though, is the replay of what happened, and he goes around, and, oh dear, a big bit of contact as others tried to avoid him.
We might need to look at Brad Winter. Because, here's the thing, that car is still running. It's got no damage, despite sliding on its roof and on top of the helmet.
Well, I mean, all those people who said that we shouldn't have halos on these cars, even in the virtual world, it seems to protect the car from damage. That is remarkable that he has carried on from that. And if he's not carrying damage, that's even more amazing. To be fair, that was not really his fault at all, so he didn't deserve to pick up any damage, but he can certainly count himself a lucky man after that one.
I mean, not often do you see a car upside down and you still have it drivable. Meanwhile, Corey Brecker is under attack with 5th and 6th quickly now to the rear wing. Holman closed up 3-4 car lengths compared to this section last time by. Now it's about the defense. We're already quickly approaching halfway. Already, some of the fall-off differences picking up for some of the drivers. Brecker had his fastest lap last time, but it was 6/10 off those behind him.
Yeah, Corey got his first top 5 finish of the season last week as well, with a 4th at Road Atlanta. Again, always seems to be there to pick up the pieces, doesn't he, when things go wrong for others, but now he's got a real fight if he wants to repeat that 4th position. Didn't get off the final chicane all that well, and so Homan and Zert are going to get a bit of a run on him into the first corner. You don't do a lot of braking into that corner, though, in these IRO4s, so it is tricky to make the move, and they will both decide to wait for another opportunity, but there's a mistake from Homan. Zert is up the inside. How many times, Justin, have we seen places change at turn 2?
A very good bit, it seems, tonight with the attrition, and not just from some of the spins, from the side-by-sides, to say the least. So, rolls on for the time being. Right now, recent incident, we're down to 17 cars running on the circuit as there goes Holman. Nearly around again with the 84 is Zert. Holman looks for the run.
Yeah, and I think that he will get that run, but Zert will surely defend the inside line, which he does. So Joseph Homan forced to go the long way round here into turn 8, and he will decide not to do it. It really looks like they're all struggling for rear grip, though, both on turn in and on corner exit, and that is leading to some very big slides, some good car control on display, but ultimately not the fastest way around the track. They're wheel to wheel again towards turn 10. All the while, Corey Brecker starting to check out.
Owen Holman nearly all the way to the wall, off to the edge of the racetrack as Zert plays defense. That was a little bit tricky. There had been a squish and touch bit to the grass. Now that's broken up the battle, and Corey Brecker has picked up 2 seconds. Meanwhile, Justin Johnson trying to hold off some of the drivers who have really had to dodge trouble. David Hebert's back here. Michael Blaze, after the wing change, is also back here, as there's more trouble at the back.
Yeah, I think that was Brad Winter, wasn't it? Yeah, Brad Winter, number 502, who had a spin. I just saw that in the background. His car was backwards by the time it came out of turn 10. Side by side into the chicane. That's Johnson on the outside, Habert up the inside, and that's a really tricky moment. Michael Blaze almost involved in more contact at the final chicane as he tries to work his way back towards the top 10.
They're pulling off and away. Johnson left side, Blaze, and a spot given to him from Johnson with the early break. And some drivers take that initiative, right? Or take that thought process. Knowing the speed differences, who do you let go, who do you fight? Keep in mind, Dowden, he's 4/10 quicker than everybody else in the field, as the rest of the leaders, remember, are either in the teens or out of the race from his pack.
Yeah, I mean, he's just done a 1:38.0. That's within a tenth of a second of his fastest lap of the race, the 37.94. And I think I'm right in saying he's the only driver who's done a 37 in the race. So he clearly has the pace here and just survived those early exchanges, and really now he's not looking back. The gap to second place is pretty static though. In fairness, James O'Brien doing a good job of keeping it pegged between 4 and 5 seconds, but without any further dramas, Michael Dowden is looking the favourite here, and as I said, this could be a big points day. Hasn't won a race yet this season. His championship campaign has been all about consistency, but especially on a day in which some of the other title contenders have had bad luck and non-finishes, this could be a really good time to take the maximum points.
exceptionally great day. As we take a look back at the fights, remember how Precker built a 2-second cushion? Well, it's quickly gone. Zachary Zert has eaten up those 2 seconds like chocolate chip cookies. The 84 looking to move himself up to 4th. This would be one of Zert's, if not Zert's, best race of the season, keep in mind. Holman's also within a 1-second buffer.
Yeah, Zachary had a 4th place at Mount Panorama, race number 2, but right, if he can get past Kuri Precker, then there might be a chance of getting onto the podium, but look at the way they've dropped away from those top 3. Nearly 10 seconds they are behind McPherson in 3rd place, and really this is the fight for 4th unless something else happens to those ahead. And they also will have to factor in the very rapid Michael Blaze, who has already made a pit stop, provided that he has got fuel to get to the end of the race now. He could well still be a factor for a podium by the end of the race. They turn their way through turns 8 and 9 though, and this battle for 4th that just refuses to die down looks as though it's about to ignite once more.
Here's the 4th cars starting to join in. Owen McLaughlin is within about 1.5 seconds of this fight too. Oh, and near trouble for Zert again. That arrow push is just so difficult to deal with once you get too close in these corners.
Yeah, even at what is the slowest corner on the track, pretty much down at turn 10, just they really seem to be struggling for mechanical grip almost more than aero grip. There is something about this track and car combination that's making life very difficult for the drivers, but they're certainly entertaining us with some really good racing over the curbs, nice and neat and tidy through the chicane, and Corey Precker spending most of his time, I'd imagine, looking in his mirrors rather than focusing on what's happening in front of him. Yet again, the attack might come into turn number 1.
Out of the fight for now. Slow down penalty by the world champions. Here's a look from Holman. Just trying to position himself for the most part. Remember the last time he tried to position himself? Got quickly zipped by the 84 car. Under 10 laps to go in the race. Pit stops on the mind for some. We're about 5-10 minutes away from the estimated window for these drivers today.
Quite a short pit lane here at Montreal, so that will limit the amount of time they have to spend in there, and so expect to see them losing a bit less time than we're used to seeing. In fact, it could be possible that likes of Dowd and O'Brien and McPherson could stay in those top 3 places depending on when they do make their pit stops. They certainly should end up in the top 3, I think, once all is said and done with the stops. Yet again, this battle continuing to be the closest, although McPherson, I think, Justin, is closing in slightly on James O'Brien, so 2nd place might not be done and dusted yet either.
And McPherson stayed within 1 second for a good while. So some of the drivers taking the patience route, Zert taking a little bit of the squiggly route, and looking for a chance to swap back yet again for a top 5 position. Here's a look at that battle for 2nd we're talking about. McPherson's looked pretty content, staying about this distance most of this run. O'Brien has been leading them around, running 1:38.7s, the both of them.
Interesting then that we perhaps have a little bit of cooperation going on here. They know that they're in a good position because of this big gap they've got behind them. If they start battling, then they risk losing time to those behind, and that would not really favour either one of them. So James O'Brien and Kevin McPherson perhaps content to stay where they are for now. Again, these are 2 drivers not that used to seeing near the front. O'Brien has had a podium this season, but McPherson definitely hasn't, and he would love a 3rd place finish. And every driver in this race will have a different result that they would be satisfied with, and I think for Kevin, sitting in the wheel tracks of James O'Brien right now is all he wants to do.
By the way, Zachary Zert indeed has made the pass for the 4th position. That was in 1 and 2 previous time around. So now Zert is in clean space. Precker now the middle car. Holman looking to be the next one up to try and rip away Precker's chance at the top 5 for the time being.
Yep, up towards turn 8. No one really close enough to make a move here. It'll be interesting to see whether Precker has the pace to stay with Zachary Zert now, whether the 84 car is going to pull away. At the moment, it looks like he's pulling away, and Corey Precker might now have to switch to defence to try and keep Homan at bay as they drop into turn number 10. But yeah, into the final 10 laps of the race now. When will people feel the need to pit? How much do they feel they're being held up in traffic? Is the undercut going to be worth anything here? There's still plenty of time for these positions to switch about a bit in the final 8 laps.
It'll be very intriguing who the first leaders are. Kevin McPherson's answered that question. He's just entered the pit lane. So who joins in from this pack? Zachary Zert does. Corey Precker a bit of an early break. So McPherson and Zert are in amongst the top 5 so far.
Yeah, I think Joseph Homan's probably regretting not stopping there because he could have probably leapfrogged past Corey Precker, but in they come then. Now, McPherson's the one we really need to watch for. Is he going to be able to stay ahead of the likes of Michael Blaze, who, remember, has already made that early pit stop for damage repair, but will likely have turned that into his mandatory stop, although as I say that, Blaze losing positions on the track, so something's happened, I think, to Michael at the chicane. Again, it's that final corner that has been his undoing in this race, and that will cost him even more places.
Well, that right front tire's a bit broken. Caught the world champions for several reasons. This is why.
Yeah, too much speed in, got over the curb, and the car was already over-rotating, really. The onboard will show it well. He turns in, see, he misses that first apex, which shows that he's carrying too much speed and probably should have just bailed across the runoff area, taken the slowdown penalty. Instead, he tried to make the corner and has suffered even more damage. He may now be out of the race.
So Michael Blaze having a rough day indeed with some of the attrition, as there's Brad Winter in the middle of the racetrack. Look out. Winter able to turn it back around. He's running 12th for the time being. Remember, he flipped upside down about 10 minutes ago. And here we go.
Same thing again. We've seen so many drivers just taking too much speed into the corner, but then these cars don't have a great turning circle, do they? So he has to do a 4 or 5 point turn to get going again. Dowden and O'Brien reacting here to the pit stop from McPherson a lap ago. Precker is in too, but look at Homan. He stays out, but immediately rattles over the curbs. That will cost him time, and it may well allow Corey Precker, when all is said and done, to stay ahead.
Michael Dowden already completed his pit stop service. The net delta about 28 seconds today. Michael Dowden's lead so big that he goes off the racetrack. Michael Dowden burns the buffer he had. James O'Brien nearly runs him over for the race lead.
Oh, that was way too close for Michael Dowden. That could have cost him everything, and O'Brien will go through. Now, James O'Brien has made a pit stop, so that was a genuine pass for what will be the race lead. That 5-6 second lead that he had has disappeared, and on cold tyres, perhaps on the dirty side of the road, we've noticed, haven't we, Justin, there's no grip on the outside at turn 2, and that is where that pit exit filters in, and it caught our race-long race leader out.
Michael Dowden losing a 6-second cushion because of that mistake. Now we'll have to fight for the net advantage. Holman and McLaughlin, the only cars in front of him. They both have yet to pit. So it's down to O'Brien and Dowden now. McPherson 3 seconds back. Dowden looking to line up behind the 33. Both looking for win number 1 in these cars in the series.
Yeah, for Dowden, though, this is so important for his championship. For O'Brien, it's a great result, of course, but he's some 60 points off the championship lead going into this 6th round of the championship. Dowden, though, knows that he's in a brilliant position to capitalise on the misfortune for Keita, for Moran, for Santana. He needs to try and get this race lead. I think he's probably got the pace to do it, but we've seen, haven't we, Justin, it is not the easiest thing to do to make a successful pass around here.
2 in front of them at pit. O'Brien having to check up a little bit for the world champions. And now it's these two to decide the race winner. 6 laps to decide it here from Montreal. Dowden looking to try and position himself with a later break and a slide again. Dowden nearly hits O'Brien. O'Brien looks to build up. Dowden slides his way to the corner and loses half a second.
You've got to be careful on corner entry. The rear of these cars very lively indeed, and Dowden, I think, just needs to take a step back here and think of the bigger picture. He would love to win. He would love to capitalise with a maximum points haul here, but second place is good too. That's 32 points for second place. That's 32 points more than his championship rivals are going to score. Another car off now at the first sequence of corners. That's Vargas, isn't it? Number 65, who is the latest victim of turn 2. But yeah, I think Dowden just needs to settle down a bit here. If he throws this away, trying to find a way past James O'Brien, he will never forgive himself.
That's why Vargas went around here. Watch turn 2. And we're another issue in the corner.
Yeah, they just can't roll through the centre of the corner, can they? It seems that he didn't really look like he was taking too much speed there. Just the rear came around on him. So these cars really looking very sketchy, and that could be the setup, it could be the track temperature, it could just be that this is a quite low grip track. Another car there nearly getting it wrong as well. Corner entry, Justin, is what's catching people out.
That was the leader, O'Brien. However, Dowden did check up for him, not able to make the move yet. Dowden taking a peek, having to stay behind for the time being. They are now Losing their buffer though with all this. The gap is about just under 3 seconds between them. 3:26 with 5 laps to go. 8 minutes on the clock. Which way will it go?
Down towards turn 1 then. Dowden hunting down James O'Brien, but how much of a risk is O'Brien willing to take here? He has not won a race yet. He is going to leave it all out there to try and get this first win of the season. I just don't think it's worth the risk for Dowden. If he was thinking about the championship, he'd probably drop back a little bit and conserve second place, but he's clearly not thinking about that. He wants the race win. And, well, I hope this doesn't all end in tears. It's been a brilliant battle so far. Dowden lucky, really, to still be in the race after that mistake coming off pit road. Can he retaliate here on O'Brien and get the race lead back?
None of these drivers have won on Thursday nights in open wheel competition in the history of the PRL. Can they do it tonight? Which one of them will it be is the biggest question. Dowden builds up a good run, looking for the hairpin. Now within a car length, does he send it on O'Brien? O'Brien doesn't take the defensive line. Dowden showing the nose. Not able to peel it, but O'Brien gives him the space to send it. O'Brien on the outside gets the run.
Impressive there from O'Brien. We've seen other drivers really struggle for grip on that outside line at turn 10, but he got the power down nicely and carries a lot more speed onto Casino Straight, but that slipstream starting to bring Dowden back to him. The gap down to 3/10, 2.5 tenths. It could be 2 tenths by the time they hit the brakes, but that's not quite close enough to make the move. Peels out of line briefly just to try and distract James O'Brien, but no mistake coming yet from the race leader.
4 laps to go. Here comes Dowden's best run yet on O'Brien. He looks to the left side again. Michael Dowden. Hard send up, heading into center. Makes it work. Move Dowden back to the lead. O'Brien to second.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to James O'Brien, actually. He really didn't make that too difficult for Michael Dowden, did he? I think he knows that Michael's a championship contender. Didn't want to over-defend. That is Corey Precker getting turned into a spin down at turn 10. Now, was that Zachary Zerd? I think it was. Zachary waits for him. He knew that he was in the wrong there and didn't want to take the place that way. Again, good sportsman-like driving there.
Great respect shown right there. Keeping an eye still in the race lead fight, coming to 3.5 laps to go. Now Dowden trying to break some of the draft coming towards turns 8 and 9. O'Brien staying within half a second. Is that going to be enough? Dowden with a great section though, builds up 2 tenths off the launch.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference between being in clean air and being in dirty air. Dowden was just able to carry that bit more speed through 8 and 9. It's not going to give him a huge advantage, but it just sort of sends the message to James O'Brien that Dowden perhaps is the quicker of the two. They will have 3 laps to go at the end of this race. O'Brien won't give up, that's for sure, but I think he'll be satisfied with the second place, and Dowden will be very relieved after that little mistake coming off pit road to have got himself back into the race lead.
You have to give credit to really this entire top 5, able to take advantage in part with the attrition, yes, but the big thing, Dowden, O'Brien, McPherson tying their personal best or having their personal best races of the season. And in some cases, their PRL careers when it comes to open wheel competition. With under 3 laps to go, Dowden's in a great spot to find his way to victory lane after being so close several times the past couple seasons.
Looks as though we're going to get our 3rd winner of the season as well. It's been a Takeshi Kita Andrew Moran stranglehold on race wins so far this season. Well, neither of those 2 drivers still running in the race, so we're guaranteed a 3rd different winner. Michael Dowden knows that if it's going to be him who takes that victory, he can't put a foot wrong because O'Brien is matching his pace 10th for 10th really. The gap is not growing all that much, and Dowden knows that if he does make a mistake, O'Brien is more than close enough to capitalise.
Yeah, O'Brien's been really good in these first couple sectors. The problem has been 8 and 9 so far in the fight. There it is again. There are 2 tenths lost. But again, I think he's going to be happy with how things have fared out. Keep in mind, 4th, 5th, and 6th are still close. 7th through 11th are close. Running to Moran, 12th and 13th. So a lot of close fights coming to 2 laps to go and a lot of ramifications for the championship by the end of this night.
Yeah, that little bit of contact between Curry Precker and Zachary Zert allowed McLaughlin to close back in as well. So you're right, that is a three-way fight for 4th position. We just had a change as well. I think Homan ahead of Saba for 8th place further back. Here is the 4th place battle, and you can see the way that the orange car in 5th position of Owen McLaughlin is almost with these two now. It's been a really entertaining battle, really one of the most entertaining battles of the race, and it's not over yet.
Looking to try and find a way up to a race high 4th position. Brecker holds on to the left line. Zert waiting for one more chance. Not close enough for the full commit on this end yet. Of note, Saba has broken his left front tire after incident. The 88 now having to come in for repairs with 2 laps to go in the race.
Precker weaving around trying to break the toe, but that's not going to happen. Zert is right behind him, almost gets into him, and now spins right in front of McLaughlin. Brilliant avoiding action there taken by Owen McLaughlin. But Zachary Zert, the latest driver to find how tricky it is in the dirty air here at Montreal. And, well, in fairness, I think he was trying to avoid running into the back of Corey Precker again for the 2nd time in this race. Loses control and was very lucky not to be collected.
They're very lucky to still hold on to the 6th position too, by at least 5 seconds, mind you. A lap and a half to work with for the leaders, though. Downen has just about broken the toe from O'Brien. 1:37.8, his personal best last time by. Downen is that quick and clean air right now.
Yeah, I think he's broken the back of this race, hasn't he now? O'Brien perhaps settling for 2nd. Shout out to Kevin McPherson in 3rd as well. We haven't seen a lot of him, really, but he's had a really solid, sensible drive to a podium finish. But Dowden just needs to avoid those curbs, avoid those walls, avoid those snaps of turn in oversteer for one more lap around the 2.7 mile Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. He will claim his first win of the season.
Make flank from Barney this time around, down to the final lap regardless on laps or minutes. Here we go, final time around Montreal. Downen looking to join the list of winners in the PRL on Open Wheel Thursdays. Will this be a clean lap is the biggest question. Can he make no mistakes to get himself into victory lane?
You can imagine the pressure that he's feeling now. Not only is this the first win of the season potentially, but such a huge moment in the championship. We've been making this point all race. He was the only one of the front runners who hadn't had a bad result. Many of them now claiming their 2nd non-finish of the season here today, and that's really, really going to affect their championship positions. Whereas Michael Dowden knows that if he just keeps it on the island for this final half a lap, he will take a big, big points advantage out of them. So the pressure is there. He also knows that O'Brien isn't that far back. If he should make a mistake, then the win is not secure. So all of that pressure, a difficult racetrack, a tricky car, he'll do well here just to keep the nerves in check and bring it home.
My Justin Johnson just had to make an extra pit stop. He was short on gas on just 6 laps on the tank. Dowden looking secure though on his fuel for the time being. 1.5 seconds the advantage. One final straightaway to secure his first checker flag of the season. Then a season of wild twists and turns in the IRO4s. Tonight, another twist. Michael Dowden puts himself into the thick of the conversation for the championship. Through one final corner stretch, Michael Dowden picks up his first win in the IRO4s. He gets it done in Quebec.
Fantastic performance from Michael Dowden, a fully deserved first win of the season. James O'Brien gets his 2nd podium finish of the season, whilst McPherson takes his first top 3. But it's all about Michael Dowden. What a significant day in the championship this may prove to be.
Looking at some of the final battles, Corey Precker just holding off McLaughlin up at the line for the 4th position. There did indeed hold on to 6th. Holman jumping by Vargas in the final stretch of the race. And Saba, who is driving with the broken race car, is still trying to make it around on a meatball flag to round to the top 10 in a fight with Drew DeWeese. Again, 3 wheels on the right side, 4 on the left. DeWeese able to get 9th, Saba 10th.
Yeah, fighting spirit there for Saba, though, to keep it going even with the damage, and almost, well, he does manage to hang on to a top 10, actually, and luckily avoided further contact there through the final 2 corners.
If the position sticks once the sim sorts out, remember he had mandatory repairs for the past couple laps. Once the 26 card field, 24 taking the lights, but only 15 finished the race. So, all the drivers have completed their runs. Let's take a look at how things are sorted unofficially in turn form tonight. Michael Downing picks up the win by 1.6 seconds. James O'Brien, Pearson, his best race by far of the year, third step of the podium, and the fastest lap. Brecker, McLaughlin, Zert, Holman, Vargas, DeWeese, and Saba does get to hold on to 10th with a broken car, holding off Andrew Moran, who did indeed, after the Black Flag, get to 11th. Burning, Ibert, Johnson, and Winter, the 15 drivers of the lead lap. Winter, remember, finished this race after being upside down at one point. Neil Alexander did get a disqualification. In the final stages, he was involved in contact a couple times. Michael Blaze, Takeshi Kita did finish and pick up points to be in 18th. Holland, Harris, Vasconcelos, Richard Santana, Gore, amongst those, did not finish. Cristelli and Buckley both did not take the grid tonight. That's a look at the unofficial race results and what was a very, very wild, very, very wild, very, very crazy night, say the least, here in Montreal to start off two tight racetracks on the calendar. Michael Downing picks up his first win of the campaign. Welcome to the list of winners on Open Wheel Thursdays, and it's a big one for the championship. How are you feeling?
Feels good. This is a special one for me. This is actually the first track I ever went to an F1 race at, so this is big for me. I've walked this track.
What were the emotions like when the incident happened for the race lead, and you were the only one amongst that, really, who squeaked through clean?
Right at the start, I knew that pretty much going into that corner, you got to be on the inside, and if you try to take that corner side by side, it's just not going to end well. And luckily, I've had some practice racing people who would also go wheel to wheel through that corner, so I was able to get myself hug the inside apex and avoid any problems.
Mentioned a bit, the championship now going to take a major swing because of this race tonight. Your championship rivals, in fact, all of the rivals in front of you, are now in situations where they'll take a massive hit. Now, what's that focus going to be like for the championship, since your gap, 43 points back, likely going to be a lot less now?
I think the key is that it's 10 rounds, so you know, with one drop round, that gives you one kind of oopsie, but after that, then you run into issues. So I think the biggest thing that has kept me in the championship race thus far without a win is that I've just been consistent, just finishing every single race, getting across the line.
I was about to say, you're the only driver without an oopsie in the top 5 from entering tonight. Everyone else just had their second oopsie of this season. Congratulations on your first victory of the campaign. Welcome to the wins list on Thursday nights.
Thank you so much, guys.
That's Michael Downing picking up the victory here tonight by almost 2 seconds. James O'Brien, another podium. He's with Andy.
Yeah, James, thank you for joining us in the broadcast booth. Well, that was a really entertaining battle to watch. Did you enjoy that race yourself?
Yeah, it's I didn't expect to get second, but when I saw the smoke and tires flying in the air, I knew I had to find my way through that somehow and capitalize on it. I don't think I had anything for Michael at the end. I kind of wish I got more space coming out of pit road when he spun, but there's not much you can really ask for there. I would have tried to capitalize on that too, but I still feel like he would have reeled me in eventually. He just had probably half a second on me every lap. It wasn't even close.
Yeah, we did notice that when he caught back up to you in those closing laps, you weren't really driving super defensively. Were you kind of thinking that, you know, even if he gets through, second place is a really good result after where you started the race in the first place?
Yeah, my goal was top 5. I could have qualified a little faster. I knew I had more pace in the car during the race, but with how this track can come out and just bite you at any turn, especially the last turn, I didn't want to play defense and kind of wanted to just let him go in a way instead of taking us both out. I really did want just second place there because that was still a win in my book.
Yeah, second place. You're making a bit of a habit of this, actually. It's your second P2 in the last 3 races. Your thoughts now going into these final 4 weeks? Do you think you'll be able to get some more podiums? Maybe even that first win?
A win, maybe. Andrew Moran's real fast. Michael Dowden Michael Blaze, Taki, I think his name is. They're all just. I'm still learning this car. This is the first time I've ever even driven this track today. I bought it right before the session, so it's a learning experience still for me. But that's the goal. I'd like to learn this car throughout the year, maybe move to F3 next year. I'm just having fun with this now. But yeah, a win would be nice.
Well, for someone who didn't have much practice before tonight's sessions, that was a pretty impressive result. James, congratulations on second place. Anyone you want to give a shout out to while you're here with us?
Yeah, you guys, of course, for putting this on. It's always a treat getting broadcast and having my friends watch out there. Private Label and Ethica for sponsoring my other cars is kind of just the fun one for me. And anybody who watched, hopefully it was a good race. Hopefully the F3 race is just as fun.
I think there's a good chance it will be. Thank you very much. James O'Brien then, another strong result there for him. Second place in that race, Justin.
Take the time in turn to also talk to Corey Precker, who also put up a strong run, another top 5 finish on the trot. Corey, how would you describe your emotions throughout this race tonight? Starting in the teens, you finish in the top 5.
Yeah, a lot of luck. Just avoiding accidents. That's all I have to say about this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how difficult was it to hold off the pressure of your competitors with Zert trying to hunt you down, Holman and McLaughlin at the end of the drag race?
Yeah, I was definitely a little bit slow. I think I was just being a little bit cautious, just trying to preserve the top 5 and being a little bit slow. But I saw that I was faster in some corners, and they were faster in other parts of the track. And eventually, it just worked in my favor that it wouldn't allow them to give them the toe where I was faster. And yeah.
So a very, very, very wild night tonight. So now, as the season moves itself along here, what are the main things that are on your checklist of wanting to take strides for the rest of this campaign?
I just hope I'm going to miss next week's race, so and then the week after that I will be doing my final race of the season. I just have life things going on, so just hopefully just get another top 5 to the end of the season, and that would be a goal for me, and hopefully maybe I could finish the season top 10. I don't really think so. Saying that the races I'm going to miss is probably going to take me out of it.
Well, on that note, either way, thank you very much for the time. Congratulations to the top 5.
Thank you again.
It's Corey Precker. Thank him for taking the time to speak with us, as well as Michael Dowd and James O'Brien, part of post-race coverage for the IRL4 side of the card. A very busy one for Montreal. Remember, the next time out, it's Silverstone that drivers have to take a focus on. It's back over to your side of the globe, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. Really looking forward to Silverstone. I think that's going to suit these IRO4s down to the ground. They really do race well at these high-speed, slipstreamy racetracks, so Silverstone for sure is going to be exciting. Perhaps could provide some of the best racing of the season, and I think we'll have a few drivers going there with some points to prove.
Going to be intriguing again, February the 9th for that respective date. But it's time to head to California. It's time for the even tighter part of the race card tonight. It's time for the PRL's Formula 3 Series, powered by VCO. See who handles the streets of Long Beach the best here tonight. They start off their second half of the season with a very tight circuit. A lot, and I mean a lot of emphasis on keeping it clean tonight in the race briefings entering the evening, especially knowing this second half of the season can be very busy for these drivers.
Absolutely. We just saw how perilous street circuit racing can be in the IRO4s. Well, Long Beach, a much tighter racetrack. I'd say more unforgiving. And these Formula 3 cars that little bit faster as well. So it should be an eventful night for sure. The same as will be the case for the remaining 4 weeks afterwards. Rudskogen Motor Centre, the newest track, or one of the newest tracks to iRacing. That plays host to our 7th round before we head to Japan and Twin Ring Motegi. Red Bull Ring, one of the best racetracks in the world for open wheel racing. Before it all concludes at Watkins Glen International on the first week of March.
A lot to consider when it comes to those closing stages of the season heading into March, but let's take a look at the championship. Couple rounds ago, Sebastian Coffret had a DNF. He retook the points lead over top his brother Michael Coffret, 10 points the difference. Keep in mind, Michael Coffret's current drop, 1 point. DNF indeed for Sebastian. Max Preston had been the points leader for a little while. Now he's dropped back to third. He's yet to take a drop. Kevin San Diego, Hamilton, and Copoese at the top 5. Also in the hunt, Robert Ridgway's best season in the pro category. Tower Pierre Richards also in the conversation, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a bit of a strange season, this. Lots of drivers struggling to find any real consistency. We've had 5 different winners from the first 5 races, and 11 drivers have made it into the top 5, and that's why you see this slightly interesting order. The top few pulling away, but outside the top 5, it's very tight. Robert Ridgway only 10 behind Cavoese, 3 ahead of Tyler Pierre Richards, and then a similar gap back to Ryan Miles and Andrew Hardman, with Ozzy Milwain definitely still in the conversation to, at the very least, break it into the top 5 by season's end.
Compared to that, though, when it comes to the Yam side of the card, we have to mention it's been as up and down when it comes to the points leaders here, like the roller coaster that covers part of the boardwalk here in Long Beach. Ray Courtney picked up 10 points last round. That was enough for Ray Courtney to take the points lead over John Quinn, Michael Myers, Brad Miller, and Ayrton Smith. Remember, you have the positions for points classified by the overall positions, and it's caused a lot of swings throughout this M side this year.
Yeah, again, almost all of the frontrunners have had at least one non-finish, Ray Courtney being the exception, actually, and he has scored at least double figures, at least 10 points in 4 of the first 5 races, so that consistency is key, really, in the AMs. They tend to find themselves in the middle of some of the action, and every place they lose, whether it be to a pro or an AM, will cost them some championship points. Sergio Gonzalez-Martin in 6th, then Richard Swindell 7th, David Lemon in 8th, with Nestor De La Fuente 9th, and Eric Doob in 10th position, but most of those drivers will feel that with a couple of clean nights of racing, Justin, they can gain a few spots in the table.
A lot of teams in turn from these respective drivers looking to keep it clean too. Wave Italy Racing Team, the only team with multiple victories as a result with the Coffret brothers. Fall Formula 3 and Evolve Sim Sports, 2nd and 3rd. Dark Horse quietly becoming dark horses for the team fight. They are just outside of 1 race back amongst the group in 4th. Scuria Delta, Atomic Racing, Atomic Monkey Butt, KFM, Britannia, and Knox the top 10. Some of the teams looking to charge ahead. It's worth noting that there are a couple changes amongst the team title coming into tonight. Echelon Simsport taking the slot of JTR. As mentioned, private label team Hype going to be scoring points after tonight. Let's look at the standings for tonight's entries. Heading into the second half of the season, it's time to go racing in a few minutes here in California. It's important to note the first major message in the briefing at least 4 times told to the drivers, do not crash in the fountain to start the race.
Yeah, I think we might still see exactly that happen because it is such a narrow first section. You look at a map of this place and it doesn't look all that tricky, but it's only really when you see it from ground level that you realise the challenge that faces these drivers. That front stretch, that's about the widest part of the track. Everything else is tight, twisty, narrow. Those concrete walls are just waiting to catch you if you make even the smallest of mistakes. You cannot afford to make a mistake around here at Long Beach. And of course, Justin, overtaking is not an easy thing to do, so that puts extra importance on this qualifying session.
Down to the final 6 minutes of the session, plus the runoff time. As you can see, it's Cody Grahams who has the top time. He has about a half a tenth advantage over Juan Coffret, Michael Coffret, Andrew Hardman yet again doing well. Sebastian Coffret at the top 5. That's the pro drivers. The pro drivers tonight in red, the AM drivers in white on your ticker. A lot of the AM drivers struggling in qualifying. It's worth noting, though, the last few times the AM drivers have qualified up top, guess what? The AM drivers who qualified up top were involved in the big one to start the race.
Yeah, I sort of made this point before the IRO4 race that starting in the midfield is perhaps the worst place to be on a street circuit. Actually, that proved not to be the case at all. It was the overall race leaders who were the ones getting into each other. So that may be a little bit different here. I think that certainly starting on the front couple of rows will leave those drivers feeling a little bit safer here at Long Beach. But yeah, survival is the #1 key to the race, really, for those AM drivers. They just need to keep all 4 wheels on their Formula 3 cars, and they've got a good chance of scoring points.
New color scheme tonight for Michael Kofre, switching over to a bit more of a gold look for the respective cars. Especially with 114, and already Kofre just trying to warm things up, warm up these tires, find that extra tenth to get up to Grams, who's been really stellar in the qualifying.
Yeah, Cody Grams with a 1:12.690, then the time to beat so far. Cody looking for his first pole position of the season. Interestingly, of the 5 races that we've had so far this season, only once has it been won from pole position. That was Andrew Waring at the Circuit of the Americas. So whilst we always talk about track position, especially in Formula 3 racing, starting at the front is no guarantee of a good result, and that will give a little bit of hope right now to those drivers chasing Cody Grams. You can see, though, just how tight it is. The top 3 covered by less than half a tenth.
So keep in mind, Michael Myers is the top AM qualifier, back in 14th for reference so far. Take a look at some of the drivers trying to work their way through the final corners meanwhile and see how they've played things out. This is Cody Grams. Remember, when it came to Brands Hatch, Knox had their best team performance of the entire year. Remember, they're at the back end of the top 10. They've really picked it up in some of these courses the past few weeks.
Been really nice to see as well. They've really been finding their feet as the season's progressed, and that, I think, is just a sign of confidence. You know, they're learning the series, learning the cars, learning the tracks. This is another championship that really does throw a little bit of everything at the drivers week to week. The demands of the given tracks changing quite a lot, but they have done well, and they'll be hoping, I'm sure, that upturn of pace from Brands Hatch can be translated to Long Beach. It's a completely different challenge here at Long Beach to the one that they were presented with last time out, but they'll be certainly hoping to keep that momentum going.
The tough thing about this racetrack tonight, in your opinion, what will be the major things to consider with this circuit as we look at Michael Myers?
Well, we've already sort of spoken about the perils of Long Beach, but I think one thing I've found in my experience of driving this place on the sim is that it requires incredible concentration. Now, most of my experience around here has been in GT cars or something like a Mazda MX-5, where you're going quite a bit slower than these Dallara Formula 3 cars. The speed at which you arrive into some of these technical sections, the commitment that's required to get the aerodynamics, the downforce working on the cars, leave zero room for error. We're seeing already from that lap we were following of Cody Grams, he's scraping those concrete walls at almost every corner. So you need to take those risks to set good lap times, but they've got to be calculated risks, because the slightest misstep will end your race.
And plenty of times, especially in turn 11 over the years here on RaceSpot. Through the fountain, we've talked a lot about turn 5 has been a disaster spot for many. Don't forget about the runoff coming through turn 8. Here's Michael Kofre still. Bit of a checkup possibly after the line. With the traffic, he's not able to bump up his time regardless. That was David Lamont having to move over a little bit right after the start and finish line. No change.
Yeah, I noticed that Juan Kofre has been in the pit lane for a while too, so perhaps feels that he's not going to improve. He wouldn't have time to get back out now and set another lap, really. So Cody Grams perhaps only having to fend off one of the Kofre brothers in this qualifying session, that being Michael, who sits third fastest, but Cody Grams pushing hard once again. He'll have time for one more lap if he wants it after this one, but that's already a very impressive time. The only driver to get down into the 1 minute 12.6s so far, but he'd like a bit more breathing room, I'm sure.
We get some at the stripe. 112.9, not able to build up some cushion. Kofre still going for another lap. Andrew Hardman slipping and sliding around, has some traffic from Nestor De Fuente to deal with the rest of this lap. He might have a shot at one more lap additionally if he chooses. 40 seconds left to work with. We'll see how Hardman deals with the traffic now within a car length or two.
Yeah, needs to make a decision. This is clearly going to ruin this lap, but is it worth trying to pass the slower car or just drop back into a bit more clean air? He's got the time to do it, and that's exactly what he does. Look, he backs off coming through the penultimate turn at turn 10, runs as wide as he can through 11 to straighten up the apex, get on the power as early as possible. He'll probably take the widest line through the right-hander on East Shoreline Drive too, to try and extend that front stretch as much as he can, and he'll have one more shot at pole position.
Flag about to wave in the session. Cody Grams. Gonna see if that time can stick for another 1 minute and 45 seconds. He, Michael Coffray, Michael Myers, Ridgway, San Diego, Ryan Miles, Lamont, Miller, Kuntz can all try and add to their times. Graham's at the line, nearly gets past his personal best. The time he just put up a 1:12.7 flat. Would still be on the pole if he didn't have the 6.
Yeah, just about quicker than Juan Cofre, who has left the pit lane again, interestingly, but after the checkered flag. So I wonder if he's gone out there with race fuel on board just to try and get a feel for how the car's going to be at the beginning of the race. Robert Ridgway here, down in 13th place at the moment, and he will come across the line, does a 1:13.48. That's nearly half a second off his previous best. What about Michael Cofre? That is a 14.6. That's quite a bit slower than he's gone as well. So it looks as though the grid is set at the front, with Cody Grams set to become the latest pole sitter here in the Formula 3s.
The only one who can improve their time, Jacob Majors in the 72 car. Majors 1:13.5 at the stripe, not able to improve, so that should just about close up qualifying. Ryan Miles, Monsters looking to finish up their runs quickly, but can't improve their lap times. Currently, circuit 22nd right now amongst the pro drivers. And it's important to note, with all the attrition for some of the AM drivers, 3, Rivera, Peterson, Quinn, have not qualified for tonight. No improvement either way for Miles, even if that's stuck.
Yeah, interesting stuff then among the AMs, and Michael Myers quite clearly the fastest AM driver, 11th overall. The next fastest, Ray Courtney, in 24th, so he'll be starting right in the middle of the pack, but if he can survive, could be a good points day for Myers.
So with that, the drivers get themselves situated for California Racing 42 entrants, ready to zip around Long Beach. It's time to see which drivers can make sure they stay under that clearance bar and find their way to victory lane instead. Cody Grams picks up the pole. He'll start alongside Juan Cofre, the difference about 0.3 hundredths of a second. Michael Cofre, Andrew Hardman, Jake Potts, and Sebastian Cofre amongst the first 6. Milway, Negretti, Waring, last year's champion, back in 9th. Lacio picked up a victory in his first start of the season, and 10th he'll start tonight. Myers, the top AM driver, in 11th. Preston, points leader for 2 rounds prior to tonight, now in 12th for the grid. Ridgway will start behind these drivers in 13th. Acabo Easy, with one of his lower tier starts of the season, 14th. Kevin San Diego, Stephen Larkap, Blair, and Majors, the 18 up front. Haynes, Pierre Richards, Daly Ritters, Miles, and then all the way back to 24th to find Ray Courtney. Kuntz back in the field tonight. Let's want some of the final pro drivers. Start alongside Erickson Smith, Lamont, Miller, Dubé, and Scurali, the top 30. Swindell's Broomhead, De La Fuente, and welcome to the series, Trent Dinkle coming over from Stock Cars. Martin and Chamorro, the top 36. Ritzma, Thurman, Carter, Rivera, Peterson, and Quinn, the last of the entrants. Rivera, Peterson, and Quinn all elected not to qualify and start shotgun on the field tonight. Just waiting for the last of the few drivers to get themselves ready, and they are ready. It's time to go racing, 42 strong from Long Beach, California. The drivers are ready. Are you ready? It's the PRL's Formula 3 Series, powered by VCO, underway for round 6. And some tire spin and near stack ups in the heart of the pack. The rest of the drivers make their way up to the fountain for the first time. Grams leads them inside. Juan Cofre trying to play the outside with his brother Michael to the inside. 3 and 4 wide behind him as they go and try and keep it clean, and they don't. There they go with a wreck for 20th. About half the field stacks it up into the first corner. Some don't even make it there as they go to the fountain and stack up again.
Oh, well, thankfully a minor stack up at the fountain, but that's because half of the grid never made it that far. They were already tangling into turn 1. I'm sure we'll get another look at that at some point, but I think they were at least 4 wide into the braking zone. Contact almost inevitable, unfortunately, but it didn't affect any of the leaders. The leading group getting through cleanly, and it's Michael Cofre with the early advantage.
Michael Cofre making the move on Grams up towards Sector 3, trying to run away from Grams. Juan Cofre behind. Jake Potts gaining some spots for the attrition. All running some side-by-side, building up down East Seat Side Way for the end of the first lap. Monsters trying to play defense. Negretti and company in the heart of the pack. Placio trying to find a way to gain some spots. There's the side-by-side in the thick of things. Heading to the final corner. Juan Cofre is rear-ended one of the cars in front of him. Front nose cone damage for car 276.
Yeah, that will certainly be hurting his aerodynamics around some of the technical sections. As we said, quite high speed around here, and already Andrew Hardman is pulling past him. So the number 3 car up into P4. Is Cofre going to come back at him? Looks up the inside into turn 1, but actually that's more to defend, really, from the car behind. Sebastian Cofre, that is, excuse me, losing out to Jake Potts. So 2 places lost as we get another look at the start.
And talk about pile-ups. Absolute parking lot. Where'd he go?
Well, I'm a little bit lost for words, to be honest. That was one car very late on the brakes, and unfortunately, once the track gets blocked like that, as you said, there is nowhere to go. We've got a car hiding behind the barriers there. That was number 33. And that car will rejoin, having had a bit of an incident at turn 1, I think. But that was Joey Haynes, the last of the runners, who hasn't been in the pit lane. But yeah, that was a little bit unfortunate. Really, one car running into the back of the other was always going to cause carnage there at turn 1. That's exactly what happens. But Justin, if we just had another lead change.
Cody Graham's back into the point. Let's see what happened here as Grams took it in the final corner. And now Grams looks to run away. Cofre is losing tons of ground down the straightaway.
Wonder if he's picked up some damage somewhere then. That seemed a little bit odd that he was down on straight line performance. Cody Grams, though, only too happy to take advantage of that. Cody, who has not been racing in every round, didn't race with us last week. In fact, has only done 2 races, and he won one of those back at round 4 at Okayama. So Cody Grams, when he's racing with us, we know is quick. He did briefly fall behind Michael Cofre there, but Cofre, with a mistake it seems, is now going to have to chase back after him.
Board Cofre bottom. Full view up on the top side. Already some close calls towards the walls. Keep in mind for some of these drivers. On in the battle for first. They've already built a 2-second cushion over Juan Cofre's car. That's how big and how advantage filled their pace has been early.
Jake Potts ahead of Andrew Hardman too, so 4th place changing. Just in the background there is, well, in fact they're all kicking off, aren't they, because Hardman now has Sebastian Cofre trying to come alongside, and then there's a whole freight train of cars. Ozzy Milwade, Andrew Waring, Max Preston, all quick drivers looking to try and take advantage of this. Hardman, the blue car, will be on the outside for turn 1, but is trying to come back at Jake Potts, and here comes Sebastian Cofre looking up the inside of both of them, decides better of it. That was sensible, and he will steal a position from Hardman, who got squeezed offline into turn 1.
Near spin for Sebastian Cofre, though, able to hold on to it. That was a little bit of a brave move. It works, though, for Cofre to get up to 5th. 1 spot from his starting position. Potts now leading this group 4-5 seconds behind the leader already.
Brilliant sight and sound these Dallara Formula 3 cars make as they whistle past the concrete walls of Long Beach, California, and turn down the hill into the right-hander at turn 8, one of my favourite corners on the track. You can really take a big chunk of that inside curb and really carry the momentum out onto East Seaside Way and into turn 9, which is a possible passing place, but Ozzy Milwade deciding better of that. Andrew Hardman having a bit of an interesting race, isn't he, Justin? He gained quite a few positions in the early stages, now does seem to be fading a little.
Keep in mind, it's been a stellar past rounds. You can even consider despite that, though, for the Britannia car. Hardman taking a major uptick recently. He has to fight 2 Evolve cars. That's going to be the tough thing. Evolve's been one of the team pillars in this series for the past few years. Not going to be easy. We look towards some of the shuffling still. Sebastian Cofre wants to go.
Right on board with these drivers all day long. It is such a thrill ride here, winding their way between these concrete walls. Difficult to do that in the dirty air, though. We saw in the IRO4s that turbulent air can affect these open wheel, high downforce single-seaters, while the Formula 3 cars are no different. If anything, even tougher, even more aerodynamically dependent. And so what Sebastian Cofre is doing here is pretty impressive, really, trying to stick with Jake Potts. But you could see there through the reasonably high-speed sequence through 6, 7 and 8, he did just drop a couple of car lengths, not quite having the grip underneath him that he'd like.
Trouble AM class leader Michael Myers has just crashed it. Eric Dubé now leads the class as Myers has spun it from 13th. So Eric Dubé is the highest running AM driver left. Ray Courtney, one of the championship threats, already out with technical issues. Here's what happened to Myers.
Code again coming down the hill, and he gets flung off into the barriers. We'll see it again here from the overhead. I don't think they ever touch wheels quite. It's going to happen just behind the building, unfortunately, but the end result is clear. Myers is sent into the barriers at high speed, and I think whilst we're watching this, Sebastian Kofre has had a moment too, Justin. He is dropping down the order.
So a lot of troubles for some. This is how Myers' situation in turn has ended. Here's what Sebastian's issue turned out to be.
So down into turn 1, just made the point that he was struggling a bit in the dirty air, and the rear steps out on him into what is a really quite fast left-hander, actually, because it's such a wide entry, and he just lost the rear, much as we saw in the IRO4s a lot. Turning into those corners in the dirty air can be really tricky.
Running under 30 to go, some more shuffle moments for a second. Max Preston. For the past couple weeks, has been dealing with technical issues. He's still able to keep the car on the track, though. Wearing sandwiched with him, Milwayne in front. We also have in this battle Placio, we got Ridgeway in the 10th position. Pretty tightly contested amongst this top 10, as they all situate themselves close with this pull down the front stretch.
Yeah, that's it. The toe is sort of keeping them together down the front stretch, but everywhere else it's very hard to overtake. This is the place to do it, and Andrew Waring knows it, pulls up the inside of a blinking Max Preston, and will go through, but that would have been a real relief, actually, to Andrew. The worst thing to be doing, especially around a track like this, is running around next to a car that's blinking in and out as they suffer connection issues, and so Waring makes that move. We're seeing a surprising amount of overtaking into that first corner, actually. That is the place to try and make a pass. Everywhere else, it's just about surviving, staying as close to the car ahead as you can, and some drivers finding that easier than others.
Looking at Placio, his second start of the season, 1-for-1 coming into tonight. And keep in mind, he's been somebody who's won a few times in the series entering this campaign, so he's one of the drivers who has experience being able to run top 5 normally. He's just, in this race, been bottled up in 9th so far.
Yeah, but we saw in qualifying, you only have to be a 10th or so off the ultimate pace to find yourself outside the top 10 on the grid, and it's just going to be so difficult to get that track position back, and that is where, in a few laps' time, pit strategy could be crucial. I think this track, perhaps more than any other that these Formula 3 cars will race at this season, we could see some interesting pit strategy, given how tough it is to pass, how tough it is to run nose to tail in that dirty air. We might see some of those further back dive for the pit lane a little bit earlier.
Some of the leaders zip on by around the racetrack. Cody Graham's absolutely dominating early, 6 of the first 7 laps his way. Hardman has now been reeled in, though, by Aussie Milwayne. Just about was. Milwayne able to hold on to it, though, in a bobble coming down West Shoreline Drive.
Yeah, I said that you can take lots of curb at turn 8. You cannot at turn 5. It's a very, very vicious curb on the inside, and over a crest too, so the car's a little bit light anyway, and Aussie can count himself lucky that he did not find the barriers there. Just lost a car length or so to Andrew Hardman. Does seem a bit like this group is settling down now. Hardman settling into his rhythm. He's stretching things out a little bit. The real battle going on behind. Preston, Palacio, Robert Ridgeway, Justin Negrete, Kevin Sandiego. Now, Sandiego, Justin, is a lot further back than we would expect, really. Kevin Sandiego has been quick this season and is 4th in the points coming into tonight.
Boom dop, ba-da-ba-da, boom bop, bop, bop. Where in the world is Kevin Sandiego? He's stuck in 12. He's only gained 3 spots and has been having some very rough qualifying runs the past 3 weeks. Byron Daly, meanwhile, looking to pass him. And where is he going? He's up to 12.
Kevin Sandiego was in the wall there. I think he's already had some contact. That front wing perhaps looking like it's a little bit bent. Maybe not too badly, but he's clearly not happy here around Longreach. Yeah, the left front, I think, has had a bit of a knock, so perhaps in that first corner incident, shall we say, he started 15th, which was, again, right in the danger zone, and it was about 15th, I imagine, where the initial contact was. Another car in trouble here, though, just in someone recovering, I think, from a spin at turn 5.
You just don't want to be the leader of the M class tonight. Eric Dubé has now added damage to his car. Let's take a look.
well, the opposite of what we saw earlier on for Ozzy Milwain. He missed the curb completely, missed the apex and had a spin, but I don't think he hit anything, so hopefully no damage. But that now means that this man is in the lead of the AM class, Brad Miller, who finds himself running in about 18th place, I think, at the moment, and he has a 1.6 second advantage over Richard Swindells, with Trent Dinkle in third. So once again, as you said, that AM class having a big shuffle.
Miller looking for his first top position in AM class finish of the season. Continuing to follow along with Milwain and Waring. And it's been kind of surprising the step back we've seen from the defending champion this season. Waring, coming into tonight, has had a lot of moments, let's put it that way. He didn't start last week. He already had a 0.9. He has gone to victory lane, but this year in points, it's not been what we normally see. In fact, he just popped the wall.
Oh yeah, and they're running right behind his teammate as well, of course. These both Evolve Sim Sports drivers, and as you were saying, that Ozzy Milwain nearly went into the wall again at turn 5, so they're both finding it pretty tough sledding here tonight at Long Beach. Robert Ridgway there in behind Julio Palacio. This is the fight for 9th position. But again, as things settle down and you find yourself running with people of roughly the same speed as you, it's very difficult to make that pass. And they're all kind of in a bit of a slipstream train too, so the effect of the tow down this front stretch, not quite as powerful.
Credit to Ridgway, seen as a role model by some in the community when it comes to PRL competition. Very willing to help drivers over the past few years and seasons. One time picked up the AM Championship earlier last year, in fact. Having one of his best runs of the season so far as part of this track. And that's the major thing when it comes to this track. You have to consider the best usually rise to the top. You need to be patient, and we've seen the patience pay off for some.
Yeah, for sure. We are seeing that most of the drivers at the front are the ones you'd expect to see, but then there are, again, a few who are having a bit of a surprise result. Jake Potts, for example, running a lot higher up than we're used to seeing him. Okay, he's had a couple of non-finishes, but has only scored points in 2 races. That's Jacob Majors off, and that, I think, is... Where is that, Justin? I can't quite tell.
Run stretch.
Oh, it is. Oh, just into
yeah.
the out of turn 1, I think, isn't it? Yeah, so that's a strange place to find himself parked, and perhaps that's some damage too. But yeah, I think we are seeing a few drivers who are maybe street circuit specialists really rising to the fore, and Jake Potts certainly the lead of those contenders.
Here's what happened to the 72. And, yep, out of turn 1.
Yeah, ran too wide, into the barriers. Again, could have had something to do with that dirty air, but that will be his race over as well, and another example of how unforgiving this track is.
Oh, and some smoke kicked up down in that section. That's because of some of the technical issues of Preston. Apologies there. But either way, things have now taken themselves to the calm period. The lead already up to nearly 3 seconds still. Again, Knox 1 in 4 on the track right now as part of what's been a big improvement for the Knox cars in terms of their step up in the past 2-3 rounds.
Yeah, and as we said in qualifying, they are very much keeping that momentum from Brands Hatch going in a completely different style of racetrack, and that is the sign of a good team, of strong teamwork. They, I guess, have been doing quite a bit of practice around Long Beach in the week since we last saw them, and those repetitions, Justin, that is really what makes the difference, especially around a track like this. You almost have to get it down to muscle memory in some ways. That's the quickest way around a track like this, and teamwork, team preparation, that is key.
Keep in mind, some traffic these drivers will have to deal with soon. 37th place, check the 36 tomorrow, just came out of the pit lane. So some of the leaders will have to deal with that soon. How small the circuit can be at 1.9 miles. In our news, Cody Graham's still in his own little bubble. 2/10 quicker than Michael Cofrey last time. Graham's looking to find a way to the checker flag yet again this season, looking for a second win in 3 weeks. He's missed half the races, keep in mind, so he's not at the championship fight, but when he starts, Andy, you usually find him around here.
Yeah, Cody is a class act, isn't he? That's a really tough thing to do, actually, to jump into a championship on and off and find yourself immediately with front-running pace. Looks like I've had a change for 5th there. Ozzy Milwain, well, in fact, they're changing a few times. I think they're side-by-side, yet they are. And Andrew Harmon does now lose out to Ollie Milwain, who's been throwing that number 14 car around, and he's just thrown it up into 5th place.
And when it's so difficult to pass, you have to wait for the mistakes to pop up. That traffic we refer to, part of that reasoning, it appears, of this shuffle in here. So Hardman back to 6th. Now just about breaking even on straight line speed of that down this drafting zone. Waring still looking to stay on the train. Biggest movers, by the way, so far. Rivera, who started at the back of the field, up 18. Quinn, 16 up. Also in the conversation for biggest mover so far, Jordan Kuntz, who is looking to bounce back from several rough incidents as of late. He's 13.
Yeah, we can see Max Preston very much dropping off this group now, really, in 8th place. Bit of a disappointing night this for Max, who came into Long Beach 3rd in the points, but of course significant that Sebastian Kofre has notched up another non-finish, because that will be his 2nd non-finish. He retired at Okayama as well, so he's already used up his drop scores. He was leading the points coming into tonight. That will no longer be the case. Here comes Andrew Waring, looking up the inside of Andrew Hardman, and this is where Milwain got past Hardman a lap or so ago. Almost gets squeezed into the wall. That was aggressive stuff from Waring.
A little bit of air still there. Hardman avoids damage, locks up the tire for good measure. Here comes Preston and Palacio closing up. Hardman able to get the best on the power. Waring now up to 6th spot. Hardman -3 on the start. Here comes Preston. Looking to line it up heading to turn 1. Hardman giving some space. Preston giving plenty more space. Makes it work.
Yeah, so Max Preston listening to me perhaps, just as I said that he was struggling. He picks up 1 more place at the expense of Andrew Hardman, and that's valuable championship points. Every position worth a point at this region in the running order anyway, from 5th on back. It's 1 point per position. Obviously more points, more difference in points between the top 3 or 4 in the race to make that extra rewarding. So Cody Graham's at the moment on course for 35. Michael Kofre, 32 points about to head his way, and that would put him into the championship lead, but a lot to shake out, and another car in the wall there. That was Palacio, was it?
It was. Square on the tires. Does that mean chassis damage? We'll have to see. Here comes the run, Negretti. Negretti goes around, and now there definitely is damage. Negretti, contact with Palacio sends them the tires. They are stuck along the side of the racetrack as several cars zip by.
I said earlier on, that's a risky place to try a pass because it's quite a quick corner. It's off camber as well, and ultimately I don't think either driver wanted to back out of that, but that is another one of our top 10 runners, 2 of our top 10 runners now perhaps out of the race, and a shame that battle had to end that way.
San Diego, wing damage picked up on his car, and the 88 machine, by the way, from some of the battling we've seen earlier. He's still trying to keep himself in a decent spot. He's behind Kuntz, who's now at 14 spots. Ritters is behind him.
Yeah, so San Diego just sort of quietly going about his business. I think he's accepted this is not going to be his best score of the season, but again, another driver who had a non-finish in the first round at Suzuka, so just needs to finish, bag as many points as he can. Everyone else having really up and down seasons. This might not actually be the end of the world. If he could score 20-odd points here at Long Beach, that could prove to be really significant in the championship, and actually he's got half a chance of moving past Jordan Kuntz here. I think he's quicker than the 99 car, just needs to be patient and pick his moments.
The rough thing again though is when he enters the pit lane, there's the wing change. That is about 11 seconds compared to about a 5-second fuel stop. That would put him, based on the positions right now, back to around Tower Pierre Richards. Some smoke down through that corner. Wants them now closing up to the 71 of Ridgeway. Here's the reason for some of the smoke.
Yeah, let's see who it was, what happened. Through the final corner they went then. Oh, and a big slide, and in fact a spin for Max Preston, and dials it out nicely. That was a really good 360, but loses some valuable positions just as he was starting to make some progress.
Preston loses all the ground he had picked up all race. Top 5 contention back to the 10th position. Looking still at some. Brad Miller, he's been riding behind and following Ryan Miles for the past while. He's in the group here. Richards, top running AM driver, what's been an attrition-filled class today. Lee Broomhead is the closest to him, who is about half a straightaway back.
Yeah, that's right. So looking good for Brad right now, but I don't think he'll be counting any chickens just yet. He knows that this has been a very tough race just to survive up until this point. We are about halfway through the race, and we've seen how many trials and tribulations have befallen some of the other drivers. So Brad Miller just tagging along with a couple of the pros there, Tyler Pierre-Richards and Ryan Miles, and I think he'll be happy just to stay with them. That's sometimes a good idea, I think, for the AMs. Just tag on to some of the pros that are perhaps of a similar pace to you, and try and keep that gap to the rest of your opposition behind.
Clouds starting to form up above parts of the racetrack. Keep in mind the track temperature is kept cool. Cloudy skies today, 64 Fahrenheit air, 70 track temperature. So a lot of grip in theory. When you look at the cars, though, it's not so easy. There's more scraping from San Diego. Now starting to lose ground and turn in. Never mind. There goes the 99.
Well, that was the easiest pass that Kevin Sandiego's made all day, and just as you were saying, how it doesn't really look like they've got much grip out there. Another driver rather proves your point, but even when the track conditions are good here at Long Beach, it's just such a treacherous track. It's fast, as we've said, but it's very bumpy too. You can see the way the cars are sort of bouncing up and down, and some of the worst of the bumps are actually in the middle of the corners, and corners like that there through the right-hander at turn 9, there's a big bump right on the apex, very bumpy through the left-hander at turn 10 as well, and that just unsettles the car. And if you're in that dirty area, you're pushing a little bit harder than normal, that can have an extra effect as San Diego pits.
He opens the pit window now for those making scheduled stops. 27 drivers just making it past the halfway point, by the way. A lot of drivers involved in attrition, including Negretti, Placio, and several of the AM contenders. Milwain and Waring, meanwhile, starting to work together a little bit, running 113.8 to 113.3s when settled in. Not chipping away like they needed, though, to get to Jake Potts and Juan Cofre.
Yeah, that's right, down into the right-hander at turn 8, and well, they're working together, but they're certainly not taking it easy, as Andrew Waring got very close to the concrete wall, but it worked. You can see there it's risk-reward. It's a risk that's worth taking, because it gained him a lot of speed on the exit, closed right onto the gearbox of his teammate ahead. And I wonder whether we might see Waring pit perhaps a little bit before Milwain try to get that pass done in the pit lane. They come off the final turn, and both stay out for now.
Expecting drivers to go for another 10 minutes or so time-wise. Oh, and some traffic holding up the race leader right now. Michael Cofre just lost a fair bit of time. Here's a look. James Carter was the traffic. We'll see what happened here. A lot of chatter on the radio.
Yeah, that's something else that we hadn't really considered, but as some others have pitted or are limping around with damage, you will catch some lapped traffic, and well, it's difficult to overtake for position around here. It's exactly the same with the back markers, unless they make your life easy, and some of them perhaps not doing that. That's Ryan Miles into the pit lane now, the Atomic Monkey Butt car. Eric Dubé is in too. Quite a few cars now choosing to pit as we move into the final 15 laps of the race.
Can confirm it was not James Carter, it was Trent Dinkle that apparently was in the conversations, by the way. Apologies to the way of Carter's direction. But it was involving a car out of the pit lane. That's going to be the tough thing too, Andy. The pit exit is basically right to the very end of the racing braking marks.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen that cause issues in the past, haven't we? And you've got to have your wits about you if you're coming out of the pit lane, because those cars are coming at you very quickly. And as you said, you're right on the racing line. Had a change for 5th here. Andrew Waring almost looked as though Ozzy Milwain let him through, but I actually think Ozzy might have had a mistake coming through turn 8, because he's fighting back again now. And there you see an example of that. The car exiting the pit lane. That was Dubé, I think, managing to stay out of their way. But it's more the exit of turn 1, isn't it, where they really merge back onto the racing line. That can be the danger spot.
Yeah, this could be very tricky with some of the drivers coming in and out if you reach the run times. Goods, by the way, in this time, Ritzma. So a lot of drivers trying to find a hole in the traffic, find a way to get a clean air. Some of these drivers are losing up to a second in the midst of the traffic, keep in mind. Here's a look at more traffic. Here's James Carter. Carter staying to the left side, trying to lift off the gas, be cordial here.
Yeah, and he did that right, really. You might be wondering why he didn't pull to the right of the track and get right out of the way, but that really is not the right thing to do. I think you want to be as predictable as you can be when you're the slower traffic. Stick to the racing line and let the others go around you. If you stay on the racing line, they absolutely know where you're going and they can react accordingly. So that was good stuff there. Just lifted off the throttle, allowed Waring and Milwain to go through and continue on their way. And it does now look as though the number 1 car perhaps has the pace over his teammate. It's just starting to extend the margin in 5th.
The park is starting to really build up on this racetrack. Been a wild day to say the least. More traffic. Cody Grams passed by Ray Courtney. Courtney also exits the pit lane. And that's the tough thing you have to consider is, well, you kind of can't just say, hey, car that's coming out of the pit lane, can you not do that?
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, you're sort of stuck with what you've got and you've just got to react. And I really think that is more on the faster driver approaching on the racetrack, because the car that's in pit exit, all they can do is accelerate up through the gears as quickly as they can and try to stay out of the way, but their options are very limited. They've got to stay within the pit exit line, of course, otherwise they will get a penalty. So their options are restricted. The car that's on the racetrack, they've got ample space up the inside into turn 1 to give them a little bit of room. You can see that yellow line. The drivers have to stay to the right of that when they're exiting the pit lane. And yeah, I think that really puts the onus on some of those on the track to try and make life easier for those exiting the pits.
Michael and Juan Cofre, Jake Potts, Waring, Hardman, all in this time with Milwain. Some of them off and away, 5.5 seconds. Some drivers taking less than 5 seconds of fuel, trying to save as much as possible. Trying to find a way to gain an extra bit of time. Cofre leads them out. Potts, Waring, Milwain, Juan Cofre taking the wing change.
Yes, that will drop him down a little bit more than Juan Cofre, with roughly about 6 or 7 extra seconds spent repairing that wing. As you said, Kevin Sandiego also made those repairs when he came in a while ago, so that's why he's languishing down in 16th place. He'll pick a few up as others stop, but he's going to struggle, I think, to make it into the top 10 before the race is run. That looks like Cody Grams, and Cody Grams is heading for the pit lane, so he could afford to take his time there, really, couldn't he? He was comfortably out in front, but needs to make sure that he hits his marks. It's easy to miss your pit box here at Long Beach, and if he does that, that could be costly.
Also went very conservative on that entry run. So Ridgeway, the first of those yet to pit. Looking at Jake Potts right now with some traffic breaking them up. Rivera yet to pit. Waring able to pick up a lot of ground with that pit stop strategy. About 0.6 to a second just about picked up in turn as a result of their stop. But there's the time back for a moment. Rivera comes on in. There goes the drafting hub a bit for Waring. Still a second back.
Yeah, so where do they come out? Well, there is Cody Grams. He's going to rejoin as the race leader, but Michael Cofre is a bit closer, quite a lot closer actually than he was. Look at that, it's down towards 1 second. So Cody Grams and Michael Cofre, they had roughly the same length pit stop. So it was, I think, that pit entry. You said that it was conservative for Grams, and that cost him an awful lot of time. This gap was 3 or 4 seconds before. It's under 1 second now, with just over 10 laps to go.
12 to go, coming up to 11 this time by Grams and Michael Cofre looking to fight for the lead now as a result of that shuffle. Cofre has gained another couple tenths already on this lap. The pressure is on between Grams and Michael Cofre.
Yeah, Michael Cofre spurred on by this. He probably wasn't expecting Cody Grams to come out of the pit lane this close in front of him. Michael knows, again, the significance of capitalising on this bad race for Sebastian Cofre, a bad race for for Max Preston, a bad race for Kevin Sandiego as well. All of his nearest championship rivals are in trouble. Hamilton Akabuizi also non-scoring. So this is a big points day for Michael Cofre, who hasn't had a non-finish yet this year. He did finish 31st at Magny-Cours, a race on which he'd started from pole position. But here he is now, really in with a shot at taking the maximum points.
Outside is he's fallen back some time with the dirty air. Brad Miller, keep in mind. Cycling of all the pit stops completed by those still running. He's all the M drivers still. However, Rivera's now net second in the class and is within the drafting train Miller's in.
Yeah, this is interesting then. Alexander Rivera looking to try and get past Tyler Pierre Richards, and then he might have a go taking the AM class lead. So this has been a good pit cycle for Alexander. And Rivera, he was stationary in the pits for quite a long time, actually, 8.3 seconds compared to Brad Miller's 4.8. So he's gained the time elsewhere, but it doesn't matter where he's gained it. The point is that he's closed in. He's got half a chance now at a class win, but he does need to negotiate Tyler Pierre-Richards, I think, who at the moment is perhaps holding him up a bit.
That's going to be the very tough thing. Pierre-Richards shuffle back in that. Looking back at number 1, Waring. Now looking to take a podium spot here. Coming up to the final 10 laps here of the flag stand. Potts trying to hold on to the buffer. However, Waring 4/10 quicker last time. The previous lap, it was half a second.
Onto the brakes, through the left-hander at turn 1. Andrew Waring suddenly starting to buy back into this fight towards the front. Andrew's had a win already this season back at COTA. And a bit of an up and down season apart from that, but he could get onto the podium here. We ride on board with the number 1 car, and as he makes his way towards the left-hander at turn 6, he's closed in, but that in a way is the easy bit, isn't it? It's getting past Jake Potts. That may take some time.
A bit of a tight turn again for Potts, keep in mind. Waring getting some better runs for the time being on the close-in. We'll have about 9 laps to sort things out amongst them. 6 seconds behind the net leader. If you look at the replay, though, more troubles for some of the track.
Again, it's that trouble spot at turn 5.
Oh, and trouble in the bottom. Waring has hit the side of Potts' car. Both get away. Potts holds on to the spot. But how's the damage going to be? No wind damage on the 1. It appears Potts may have gone away with the 2.
Well, if they got away without damage there, that is very lucky indeed. Here's the replay. You can see how hard Waring was pushing through the entire preceding sequence of corners. Oh, that's a low percentage move, though. He came from a long way back, rattled into the side pod of Jake Potts' car. He might just have got away with that, but he's very, very lucky indeed. That was a very ambitious lunge, I'd say.
Very lucky indeed. They've lost a second. Aussie Milway now has a chance at a podium for the first time this season. They squabble again. Potts a little slower. Waring using all the runoff space he can to the right side of the red lines.
Yeah, Andrew, I think getting a little bit frustrated now, isn't he? He clearly feels that he's quicker than Jake Potts, but you've got to pick your moments. Try and force the mistake out of the driver in front rather than forcing the issue into the braking zone. We'll see whether he does it again into the hairpin. Carries a lot of speed through turn 9, then through the switchback at 10. This long, tightening corner. And instead stays in the racing line this time into turn 11, focusing on getting the exit speed and trying to get that slipstream past the pits.
Now getting to the point where Potts knows the draft can be very beneficial for Waring. Waring closing up a couple car lengths. Not close enough for a lunge. Potts at the rev limiter. Waring having to back up the corner. Potts a little deeper, doing in the wall again.
Both drivers flirting with disaster here as they almost find themselves in the wall through the first sequence of corners. Waring could not be a lot closer to Jake Potts. The worry in a way is that if Potts does get it wrong, Waring is so close he could end up driving straight into Jake's accident. So he clearly needs to stay close to try and make this move work. But this is risky stuff. But there's a podium on the line, and Andrew Waring would really, really like to get himself into that top 3.
Keep in mind, Cody Grams is pulled away in the race lead from what was sticking around for a bit, around 7-8 tenths, back to more than a second and a half. Michael Coffray last time lost nearly 3 tenths. Oh, and a mistake in the battle for third. Potts is just stuffed in the wall, Waring up to third.
So the pressure tells in the end then. Waring gets through, but now can Jake Potts fight back? He's got the slipstream along the pit straight, but I think Andrew Waring should have the speed to get away. Might have to defend just into the first corner. Let's see if that 41 car gets close enough. I don't think he will. And Andrew Waring, well, he does feel the need to cover the inside briefly, moves back to the racing line, and Jake Potts surely isn't close enough. No, Andrew Waring through to third.
They settle down for a second. By the way, you may have seen the changes on the pylon for a second. Well, the M-Class lead is having a brawl. Miller, Rivera, Broomhead are all one lined up astern. A chance to pick up the class here in the midst of this traffic. Near contact in the middle of the final corner. Broomhead losing ground. Rivera looking to take it away.
Yeah, I mentioned before that Rivera would have to get past Tyler Pierre-Richards to have a go at Brad Miller. Well, he didn't in the end because Tyler passed Brad, and that is what's put these three AM leaders all together. We haven't actually seen a lot of this season. Often the AM frontrunners have been separated by the pros. Speaking of the pros, Ozzy Milwain to the outside of Jake Potts. That's risky through turn 9, excuse me. Gives him the inside for turn 10, but full commitment for Jake Potts, and I think he'll just hang on.
Your contact across the front wing. Milwain given the space. Battle for the AM class leading the bottom side. Battle for 4th overall on the top. Milwain having a reset down to the final 6 laps to go in the race. Miller trying to play defense for 6 more laps for his class. Milwain getting a huge run on Potts inside, defensive and hard. Does Potts hold on? Now he has to work outside of the fountain. Sends it harder in the brakes though for the inside of the switch. And now he gets moved out of the way.
Oh, contact there. Well, you could kind of see that coming because Jake Potts was making that Dallara Formula 3 the widest Dallara Formula 3 chassis in existence. He was being really aggressive under braking to try and keep Milwain at bay, and I think Ozzy eventually ran out of patience and ran out of space really through the tightest part of the track. A little bit of contact and he's through.
Problem is now Milwain's got wing damage for the next 5 laps to deal with, so some more troubles in the midst of some of the fighting. As Potts respond with the pole. He's lining it up. Not close enough for the send back though. Milwain for now holds on to what is 4th position. By the way, the traffic has compressed the race lead a little bit. Grams has lost his 1+ second buffer. It's down to 7/10 for the lead.
And we've had a lead change in AM as well. Alexander Rivera has found a way past Brad Miller, so in the closing stages of the race, you don't know where to look. There is the 222 car, and he is now going to try and check out, get himself further up the road. Of course, every position is an extra point for him, even if it's against a pro driver. So Tyler Pierre-Richards, who's directly ahead of him, well, it's worth trying to have a go at him if he feels he's got the pace to do so.
Roberts of his last time by down the front straight away. Rivera from near dead last up to AM lead. What a charge after electing not to put up a time in queue. Miller, bad corner, nearly hits the wall in the tires.
And that could leave him vulnerable to Michael Broomhead now, who's in his wheel tracks, but Michael didn't get off the final corner that well either. These final 5 laps are going to be full of intrigue, and I suspect full of action as well. The overall lead battle getting close, the AM battle still not settled, as Broomhead has a little peek to the inside into turn 1.
Not in peak fully, though, to try and find a way around. You have John Quinn also in this conversation, to keep in mind. That's the part of the amazing thing. 4 seconds back of these drivers, keep in mind. A lot of your AM contenders started in the 40s and 30s overall. Did not elect to put up a time or struggled in qualifying. What can you say? You avoid the big one. Have a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good strategy for the AMs, really, because if they qualified, where were they going to end up? You know, 20th, 25th, 30th, right in that area of the grid where we did see carnage into turn 1. So starting right from the back, they were able to distance themselves from that, and they were really banking on there being a big incident, which there was, and I think that was a pretty safe bet. So sensible stuff, and it's nice to see that paying off. The AM drivers really using their heads here tonight to try and keep themselves out of trouble.
Still looking an eye and keeping an eye in turn of the race lead. It's now an 0.8 of a second gap coming up to turns 9, 10, and 11. Rams has led all but 1 lap so far. Can he lead 3 more is the question. Coming up to the final stretch here from Long Beach. Looking good on the time. It's likely coming down to the laps between these two for the win.
Yeah, really a kind of similar situation to what we saw in the IRO4s, where Michael Dowden, a championship contender, was battling James O'Brien, not a championship contender, for the race victory. Well, similar thing here, really. Cody Grams, we've already covered, not doing the full season. Michael Cofre, though, potentially in a position here to take over the points lead at the end of this race. So even if he catches Cody, is it worth the risk? From what I've learned of Michael, and indeed all of the Cofre brothers over the last few weeks, I think he will probably go for it. He will think that it is worth the risk, but Cody Grams is not going to give this race win up without a fight.
Still needs to hold on for a 1 second cushion and then some. These two are having a brawl though. Milwain and Cofre, Juan Cofre, going back and forth 3 times in the past half a lap alone.
Yeah, Milwain, we know, is not an easy man to pass. He made it very difficult for Jake Potts. He's going to make it no easier for Juan Cofre. And if he really starts defending, then Andrew Hardman and Robert Ridgway are closing in as well. Andrew Hardman slightly disappointed, I would think, with 7th place, given the fact he ran 4th or 5th in the early stages. But Juan Cofre with a good exit there from the right-hander at turn 9, weaving around towards the right-hander at the end of the straight. But it is still car 14 ahead.
Cofre, remember, picked up the wing change, looking to try and keep the top 5 run going. 2 laps to go to decide it here from Long Beach. Juan Cofre's been very, very deep on the brakes the past couple laps to try and make this work on Milwain. Here he goes again. Milwain already making an offensive move. Juan Cofre having to take the long way instead. Juan Cofre with the toe, makes it try and stick. Milwain though watches as he hits the wall. Juan Cofre smacks the wall. Juan Cofre avoids damage, however.
Oh, he is sideways though past the fountain. Really, Milwain did nothing wrong there. He left plenty of space for Juan on the outside, and Cofre just ran out of grip. They were both on the absolute limit of adhesion going into turn 1. And it was Ozzy Milwain who stayed ahead, but I don't think that's going to deter Juan Cofre, much like his brothers. He is an aggressive driver. Speaking of his brother, look at this lead gap. We've got 1 lap to go, Justin, and it's closer than ever.
Coming up to the white flag, this time by here from California. Michael Cofre, the closest he's been in a long while. 3 lap cars up the road to deal with. Grams versus Michael Cofre comes down to 1.9 miles.
The pits through the flat-out right-hander. Turn 1 proper is coming up soon, and this could be Cofre's best opportunity. Is he close enough? I don't think he is. It would be a big send from here. And no, he doesn't go for it. Takes a much neater line through turn 1. Grams almost gets into the wall, and as they head for the fountain, it's almost nose to tail.
Will there be a space to make the move is the huge question. Now they're within 5-6 car lengths of the start of the traffic. Martin up the road. You have Smith, you have Dubé in the line. Grams still with a cushion of 4/10. Cofre deeper in the braking sections, half a lap to go.
Oh, this is the last thing that Grams wants to see, though, the traffic ahead. Let's hope that they've been given a heads up. I'm sure the drivers will be telling them over the radio that they are coming, but it's 3 back markers, all of them about to perhaps play a part in this fight for the overall race win. Meanwhile, Alexander Rivera takes the white flag, having gained another place, the AM-class leader, now 13th.
That was Pierre Richards giving a spot. Michael Cofre, 1 last chance to do anything. Check up with the traffic. Grams keeps it shallow. Doesn't matter. Cody Grams will do it again. Cody Grams to the checker flag as another W for Knox eMotorsports.
Well, he had to work for that, though, didn't he? That was not an easy ride whatsoever. Further back, still some battles going on. Ozzy Milwain and Juan Cofre running nose to tail. This will be a real drag race to the line, but the line, as you can see, comes up pretty quickly, and I don't think Juan can get there. It's almost a dead heat, but Ozzy Milwain will hang on by the narrowest of margins to a well-earned and hard-fought top 5.
M-Class lead battling still is on, though. Pierre Richards getting a spot back. Miller watching these 2 scrap. Rivera looking for an additional point to try and get up to 13th overall in the race. Working around the left side, Miller watches in the popcorn seat. He has Broomhead behind him too. Rivera looking deep. Will this cost him the AM? It will! Brad Miller slides into him. They all crash. The AM leaders slam into each other down the final stretch. It's Brad Miller who picks up the AM win.
Oh, and that is the unfortunate side effect of this point situation where the AMs have to battle the pros, and Alexander Rivera didn't feel that he wanted to back down there. Tyler Pierre Richards got up the inside, and sadly it cost Alexander a race win that looked almost certain going on to that final lap.
Attrition, and more attrition was one of the major storylines tonight. But in the end, intense battles for the overall and for the AM wins tonight. Let's take a look at the unofficial race results. Cody Grams holds on to the victory, his second on the season. Michael Cofre, Andrew Waring, Jake Potts, Ozzy Milwain, the top 5. Cofre picked up the 6th position with Hardman, Ridgway, Daly, and Ritters all top 10 in the pro class. And then Kevin San Diego quietly for Dark Horse in 11th. Preston dropped to 12th to end the race. Richardson and Brad Miller in a bumping, banging, and bruising win for the AM class. Picks it up over Rivera, Broomhead, Quinn. But 1 second behind all the poor Fluffaway. Then it's Larkamp, Ritzma, and Dubé, the top 20. Smith, Martin, Swindells, Carter, Dinkle, Courtney on top 26. Keep in mind, Dinkle and Courtney amongst the DNF list. Also part of it, Kuntz, Ryan Miles, Lacio, Negretti. And plenty of others picked up significant damage today. Peterson, Majors, De La Fuente, Sebastian Cofre from the top 5 at 1 point. Michael Myers for the M-Class lead. Malaire, Tomorrow, Joey Haynes, Thurman, Hamilton Acabo Easy, a part of the big one. On and Scruali. Also, DNF'd to start it off. But a lot to discuss after a very busy night. In the end, though, it's Cody Grams who picks up win number 2. Cody, believe it or not, you were the first multi-race winner of the season. How are you feeling?
Feels good. I was trying to give it to Michael there at the end. I kept making mistakes. My tires were gone. Had a little trouble there on my pit lap, of course, but at least I didn't speed in pit lane like last time. So yeah, kind of feel a little bit lucky with the way the race ended there.
I was gonna say, how would you describe the difficulty of the circuit overall? Because it looked tricky for a lot of people.
It's definitely a tricky circuit. There's no room for error, that's for sure. I'm sure you saw in my driving I made a couple mistakes there. But I love this track. I love all the tight tracks like this one and Brands Hatch and Holden Park. Those are some of my favorite tracks.
Absolutely. But now, this one, another new circuit for these drivers coming up, including yourself. Your thoughts on Muskogan coming up?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do some practice there. I've driven the track a couple of times when they first released it. Have not raced there at all yet, so I have a lot of practice to do to get on pace.
Well, Cody, congratulations once again on the run tonight. Your second victory of the campaign in 3 starts.
Yeah. Thanks you guys for doing the broadcast, and nice job to my teammate Jake. I think he held down 4th there. He was in 3rd for a while. I was watching the relative, and hoping he was gonna be able to hang on for a podium, but he had some fast guys right behind him. So yeah, on to the next one.
The next one. That's once again Cody Grams picking up the overall victory here tonight in what was a very, very wild one. Andy, your final thoughts as drivers have to go from Long Beach to Muskogan next.
Yeah, another tight and technical circuit, thankfully without those concrete walls looming quite so close to the track, but a brand new challenge. I'm sure it will throw up a few more surprises, and we're heading now into the part of the season I really enjoy. 4 races to go, the championship battle really starting to tighten up now. We saw a few more twists and turns tonight, and I'm sure they won't be the last ones.
Once again, drivers taking the trip to Norway, to Norway's oldest asphalt racing circuit next week. Well, on that note, we'd like to thank everyone for tuning in for tonight's coverage here on RaceSpot and on VCO. Plenty of exciting action, plenty of tight confined racing. For my broadcast partner tonight, Andy McEwen. For our producers tonight, Arjuna Kankipani. And for the rest of our crew, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You've been watching Open Wheel Action, Precision Racing League, from Montreal and from Long Beach, California. We'll see you next week to see how the drivers fare up for round 7. Good night.